Poisonrana.
Hello.
Hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poisonrana Live. It is Sunday, January the 5th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are live right here on our youtube.com/@PoisonranaPod. Sorry for stealing.
Whoa, it's a new year and you're just stealing my lines?
Come on. New year.
Have at it. Come on, give me your reviews. Raw, SmackDown, AEW. I'll just leave if that's
Hello,
the way
everybody.
it is.
We're live. It's the first Poisonrana live in quite a long time. First Poisonrana of 2025. So hello, all the frogs out there. Drop a frog in the chat if you are here live. And if you're listening via podcast, give us a nice little review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is you're listening to us on. Hello and welcome. And we're going to chat about some wrestling. Sorry, I stole your live hit there.
Live on youtube.com/@postwrestling. Hello, tadpoles. Yeah, it's a brand new year, January the 5th. And I want to start off by saying to all wrestling bookers out there, can we stop booking shit at Christmas and New Year's? This is meant to be a time where we can relax, we can have time with family, can have time with friends, we can enjoy the festivities and watch some movies and TV shows. And my God, it's been exhausting in a good way. But yeah, like, wow, we've had we're gearing up for. We had World's End. We've got the go-home shows for Raw on Netflix.
Yeah, that's the real problem. I mean, hold on a second. January 4th has been, wrestling day for a long, long time. Royal Rumble, January, that gives a lot of space. But this World's End pay-per-view being thrown in there, the whole, hey, why don't we launch Netflix WWE on January 6th? It's like there's a whole lot going on in a time where not a lot of time is given to wrestling. So yeah, the World's End definitely threw me in a loop of like, oh wait, there's a pay-per-view this week too?
Yeah,
oh man,
it's a lot. And I know tradition and everything, but hey, how about we do January 10th and 11th moving forward? That would be way, way better.
It's cheaper to book the Dome on January 4th and 5th.
Fair enough.
It legit is, because just a few days after this, they do a week-long like holiday festival at the Tokyo Dome, which they can't book it then. So that's why always been those exact days. And now they've added the second day. That's like, come on, man. There's just too much wrestling.
We'll do it in February. Do it like the Oscars. I think and I've had this chat with Benno and other wrestling podcasters before. It's difficult because we want to do these end of the year shows, and it's always tough because after we do this stream today, we're going to do part 1 of our best match ever 2024. And it's kind of weird talking about it after we've just started the new year and we've got Tokyo Dome shows and all that. But also it feels like we're cheating to do it beginning of December when we still haven't had like Darby and Ospreay and Fletcher Ospreay part 3 and all that kind of stuff that happened. It's tough. But I'm not complaining. It's all good stuff. It
sounds like you're complaining.
I always find it like this time of year. It's like, where are we doing these shows? It's kind of a little weird to do, but yeah, we've got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, I got to throw out a little shout out to John Away from Post Wrestling. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff with them. We did our best and worst of show just this week, and it is available for all Post Wrestling patrons and Poisonrana patrons. So if you've never tried Poisonrana, the Patreon, what better time than now? Because not only do you get that show, but you get all the shows that we've done in the past, including all these retro wrestling reviews, movie reviews, and such. But you will get part 2 of Best Match Ever 2024. But because we're so nice and because the holidays are still kind of on, or maybe ending for some today, we're giving away part 1 of Best Match Ever 2024 for free today. So if you're in the chat right now, we're recording. It's 4:08 p.m. Eastern Time. As soon as we're done here, we're going to take a little pause, refill the water, take a little pee, and then we're going to go live here for BME 2024 Part 1. Some of you have helped make this list and curate. We've gone through. Davie, you made a list of the 25 top rated matches, and then you gave it out to everyone to vote. everyone sent their votes in, and then we put our votes in, and then you tally it all up, and the list has been finalized. And we're going to go through 10 to 6. I'm trying to do math here. I'm trying to remember always how we do it. Yeah. So we'll be doing that later today, and it's gonna be great. We're first gonna kick things off here at Poisonrana Live with some chatter about everything that we have missed, including World's End, Wrestle Kingdom, Dynasty, preview for Raw on Netflix. But then after this, we will chat about the best of 2024, and it's usually my favorite show to do that, and the best and worst of show. Like, just the homework is, hey, watch the best wrestling of the year, and rewatching some of my favorite stuff from this year is always a blast. So definitely looking forward to that. And part 2 will be out next week on our Patreon. So lots and lots of shows, and that's how you can support us, by hitting that follow, hit that subscribe, and go to our Patreon, because it's $5. You can see all the shows. If you use Spotify, you can check out our Patreon on the Spotify, and it shows you like all the different podcasts we've put out there. So like, it's pennies per show there, and that's how you can support us going into this new year, because we love wrestling and nerdy shit, and we like to talk about it. So appreciate all the listeners and all the frogs out there. We can't do it without you.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think we should just dive straight into it, because we've got a lot to talk about today.
Let's dive into it, Davie, because it was the return. It was the return of wrestling for me, as the nerdy wrestling fan has awoken today on January 5th, because Kenny, by God, Omega has returned. And not just Kenny Omega, but New Japan Kenny Omega. For some, I think that is a pretty big deal. And I think maybe some people were tuning in live, as Japanese wrestling. I don't always tune in live at 3 a.m, but this is usually the show that gets those night owls, those late night people, or early morning risers, to tune in the weird hours of the night to watch something that a lot of people are like, wait, what are you watching? So yes, we're going to talk all about Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty, and the build to Raw. It just feels like a crazy week this week. I feel like, like you said, it was the holidays, but we had World's End pay-per-view that feels like months ago now.
Yeah.
Which it was only like a week ago. So it's crazy. I don't even know where we should start.
Well, I think start at the beginning. Shall we start with Raw on Monday, work through
Sure.
WWE, and then a bit of AEW leading into New Japan and Dynasty? So we had Raw. It was kind of the go-home Raw edition, the last Raw on the USA Network. They made a pretty big deal of that. They had some good like highlight packages throughout the night of, it's been on the USA for decades, right? Or been on TV for decades. So pretty big deal leaving TV. But I think the big thing I want to talk about is that go home segment between CM Punk, Seth Rollins. There's been, debating what will main event. Will it be Seth and Punk? Will it be Roman Solo? The Rock apparently is confirmed for Monday on Netflix, and sounds like maybe not closing the show. But this Punk Seth promo solidified this as the main event of Monday on Netflix. I thought this was awesome. And, I think Punk brings out the best in Seth. I think whenever Seth is tapped into something that feels somewhat real, he just sounds so much better. For people that have been following this whole Punk saga since, Royal Rumble 2014 until today, I think there was just so much juice in this. And a couple of times, when you see Punk's eyes flicker when some things are said, where he's just like, did you just fucking say that? Where you see maybe Phil Brooks come out a little bit. We had a few of those moments, but yeah, I got the hatred from this promo. I was watching this with Golden Graham, my housemate, and we were just silent throughout this thing, just eating up every moment, and both looked at each other, and yet after was like, wow, that was great. I don't know. I was blown away by this segment. It felt hot. I feel I sent it to one of my friends who kind of likes wrestling, is trying to get back into it, doesn't really know the ins and outs of the Punk saga over the last decade or so. But he was like, I didn't get everything, but man, I could tell these guys hated each other. And isn't that what we want in wrestling? Just pure hatred. And I got that on Monday. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this was supposed to be a WrestleMania main event. it still could be a WrestleMania event, and they're giving it away to you for sort of free because it's Netflix, and they're really sending home that this is going to be a big edition of Raw. Dare I say one of, if not the biggest Monday Night Raws ever in all of its entirety. And I would think that Seth and Punk would main event. I know that you have Roman and Solo and The Rock and stuff, so I'm sure there's an argument. You could do the other way around and start the show with these two kicking things off. But I think this is like the match we've been waiting for ever since Punk showed up and Seth was just kicking and screaming after the War Games match at Survivor Series last year. And people were like, wait, is this a shoot, brother? Is this the guy really upset by Punk? And of course, the lines being blurred and everything. I think Seth is at his best when he is using sort of parts of realism and less of the like Joker wannabe gimmick. And it's better when he's like an actual human being. And I thought that his promo against Punk, like he stood toe to toe with Punk is probably one of the best talkers in wrestling history, full stop. And to have Seth on that level, or dare I say, maybe even just peeking past it, was like really, really great to see. He was so heated. And I think, the one line that I think kind of went over people's heads was the line about you wouldn't know anything about having a baby at home or something like that. Like, you say that to the wrong person, that could really piss someone off, because you never know if people, babies, kids, all that kind of stuff. But saying that, I thought you mentioned when his face changed, it was that line
was one of those moments.
It was the crowd that were like, ooh, whatever, but it was him that was like, yeah, you don't fucking say that. So I thought that was pretty good. I thought a lot of the stuff, Punk referencing Vince, obviously, like, hey, I hated the guy who ran the place, but he loved you. Or was he talking about Triple H? Kind of,
Yeah, I what was it? I never hated this place. I hated the guy in charge,
right.
And he loved you. So yeah, a Vince reference, which I think Punk is the only one who's done that like twice now. I feel.
Yeah.
You had a Colt Cabana reference. You had AEW references. The check boxes are things that we want to see. It's the elephant in the room, right? And it's Dante in the chat says Punk seems to bring out the best in his opponents in these promos. And I have to agree, going back to sort of AEW, the MJF feud, damn it, even the Hangman Page feud, stuff with Moxley. Like, there's Punk, he's the king of the pipe bomb, saying it out as it is, but it allows permission from the other person to give it right back to him. And I think that's why he's great and exciting to watch. And because you don't know what's going to happen, you always feel there's maybe a couple of lines from him and his opponent that might not have been approved ahead of time, which makes it just like prickly and spiky and just exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so do we got to bring up the fact that he must have okayed this, because the last time someone mentioned Colt Cabana, he threw a hissy fit, and literally, it is kind of like, wait a second, because as soon as I finished watching this promo this week, all these promos from AEW came flooding into my head.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say he's a hypocrite. And I know he's mentioned on podcasts, and I think it was Helwani's show, like, hey, I'm just batting for the team I was on at the moment. But like, think back to a lot of the shit that came out of his mouth during AEW that was shitting on WWE, and not Vince McMahon, on WWE. Like the oh yeah, go over there, the buy one get one free extravaganza and all this shit and everything like that. And there's
I feel
some contradictory things.
I feel there was a point in his AEW run where you hear it in that Helwani interview, he doesn't think it's a real business, and he kind of devalued the achievements of a lot of the people in that company, mainly Hangman Page. What have you ever done? And I think there's an element of him where he knows these kind of promos, he knows they make money. He knows it sells tickets. And whereas he thinks Hangman Page is beneath him, whatever he personally thinks about Seth Rollins has been a multiple-time world champion in WWE. He has won the Royal Rumble in WWE, something Punk hasn't done. He has main evented a WrestleMania, something Punk hasn't done. So there's an element of, no, you can do that because you are on my level, if not achieved more than me. Whereas in his mind, some of these punks, some of these kids who, no, I'm the veteran, you should be getting advice from me, and you're you're doing that, you're risking a house. It is hypocritical, but I can kind of see the justification in his head. And I feel that's why you're going to have a Seth get away with these lines. You'll get a Roman get away with these lines.
Yeah, what you say, though, I don't think that's the truth. I think the truth is, no, you can say that because I'm letting you say that. I feel like, oh, yeah, you can say jokes about Colt Cabana, my wife, etc., things that I didn't let fly before. But now that it's been out there, it's been publicly known, everyone has dissected it for like 2 years. I think that he's like, okay,
but I'm
going to let that slide.
I don't think he's going to let any old guy do that. You know, I don't think he's going to let like, I don't know, an NXT talent say that on him. I think there's got to be the right person. And I think there was, you look back at those interviews and the stuff he said, like he was so like condescending about the Bucks' achievements, about Hangman Page's achievements in AEW, like not really seeing, you know, not valuing that AEW World Championship as a real World Championship and stuff like that. And sure, he probably let Seth say these things, but I think there's got to be a level of somewhat respect for he's not going to let Lexis King do this, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Another thing is like, I think after this feud, we need to let go of the AEW stuff. Like Seth bringing it up is like, yeah, it's fine. It's still canon and stuff. But like by the time this feud is ending, whether they go on to do other stuff, like I don't need to see another guy be like, oh, and you were known for getting in fights. Like it's already hit that thing with Drew and stuff where I'm like, okay, Seth, like you seem to be the number one Punk hater. So get it off your chest, go off, whatever. But my one critique is like, hey, do we have any other content other than like, hey, you were a piece of shit and you left that other company and stuff. However, I liked how Seth said this, like, hey, you joined the competition and all that kind of stuff.
I think Drew's things were different though. I think Drew's attacks were more like, you know, you call yourself a locker room leader and you're a hypocrite and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the criticisms when Punk first came in was not addressing the elephant in the room, not addressing why he left WWE in the first place.
But anytime it's crickets because nobody even fucking knows what he's talking about. Like, no,
I'm talking about leaving WWE in the first place.
Like, yeah, but I mean, like some of these things that they reference, like I think it was even in this promo off where Seth mentioned something before he said like the competition, because that was like everyone clicked in there, but half the people there are like families who don't even know what AEW is. Remember when he mentioned like, what is it, fighting people or choking people out? And it was just like crickets like a few months ago.
I think it's delivery though as well. Like when that's happened, it's been Punk like on his own in the ring, off the cuff, like making a joke and it kind of going over people's heads. Whereas a promo like this, in a way I compare it to like something like Shakespeare, where you won't necessarily always understand what the two actors are saying to each other because it's in, you know, rhyme and old English and stuff like that. But you get the gist of the story. You get the gist that these two hate each other. So I think a promo like this that feels very raw, feels very real, even if you don't get all the references, you're going to go, yeah, I get these two don't fucking stand each other.
I thought they did a great job of selling this match. I mean, this match was sold months and months ago before we even went into the Drew feud. It was Seth and Punk that we thought is where we were going. So again, it's crazy that they're booking this on a Raw, but it's Raw's debut on Netflix. And I use Netflix quite often. Shout out Squid Games. Got through that. Every time I log in, it's the front page. Hey, don't forget Raw on Monday, January 6th. Hey, Raw. It's like everything is promoting this. I know we're in Canada and we get all the stuff on Netflix, but it has been very, very heavily promoted on Netflix already. Like I can't watch anything without seeing WWE, which is crazy and cool to me as a fan. But they did a really good job of like, hey, we're giving you a WrestleMania main event for free, if you will, on Monday on Raw. And this segment really knocked it out the park. And sorry, Seth, I think you got to take the L here because Punk, unfortunately, the hypocrite strikes again because he's going to pin you and then he's probably going to go on to have a feud for like a title or anything. At least this year's Rumble is not in Saudi. So you could write him off for next year's Rumble, but I think he might win this year's Rumble if things look that way. I think Punk is a shoo-in for winning this year's Royal Rumble.
I think you're going to have one of the most interesting Final Four this year because you could have Punk, Roman, Cena, and like Seth, Drew, whoever.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many big names in this who are a viable Final Four and could viably go for either Rock. You know, you could have Rock, Cena, Punk, and Roman.
I don't see The Rock being in it, but you know, I still see. You know, the Royal Rumbles have been kind of lackluster the last few years. Like, other than the star power, the actual events and the actual matches, everyone fantasy books into a million different ways, and it never ever lands. I can think back, because we were doing the best and worst of, and on my short list for worst of shows was the Royal Rumble, and I'm pretty sure the year before that it was the same thing, and the year before that it was the same thing. Dare I say the year before that too? Whereas the Rumble matches themselves haven't necessarily hit. Whereas I'm not saying, oh, because, you know, we didn't get Hulk Hogan or crazy cameos like Steve Blackman, which we should this year. But I think they could fix the problem of that, and maybe having your Final Four like being these huge guys. I think that they really nailed the last like 20 minutes of the Rumble, but everything else is kind of just there. But I see Punk winning this. I see Punk beating Seth. I see Punk in the Rumble, whether it's still Gunther at WrestleMania. That is an easy match you could go to for WrestleMania. But either way, like they're all guns blazing with this Punk stuff, and Seth doing a great job. And yeah, I thought they really knocked it out the park and made you want to tune in so much. Davie, when was the last time I asked you, hey, what are you doing on Monday? Can we watch Raw? Can we watch Raw together? I feel like I'm a psychopath, because I don't think I've done that in like since I've known you. I don't think I've ever said to you, hey, should we watch Raw tonight?
We won you over on the best and worst of show by Way
was like,
3-hour Raws as the best show.
I gotta see what happens. I gotta see if what happens with Seth and Punk. I gotta see what happens with Solo, and you know, will The Rock show up and all this stuff. So again, they did a really good job of promoting this show. I imagine like Charlotte, maybe Becky, John Cena's advertised.
Let's get there in a sec with kind of thoughts on Raw on Netflix, but we did have a few other things on Raw this week.
Yeah.
The New Day heel turn, I think, is really clicking. I think that's really working. Beefing with locker room leader Rey Mysterio, who will have a mystery partner. We have seen the Penta promos. Do we see Penta and Rey against the New Day?
Yes, I hope that's the case. I really, really do. I mean, I've been joking about how Triple H needs to book Mexico City, Rey versus Penta, and this is the first step if we're ever going to get that match while these two are still current active wrestlers. And I mean, Rey Mysterio versus Penta, I'm pretty sure has happened, but if we do this in WWE, I think that's one of the biggest matches they could go for in that, like, you know, lucha area. And the stuff with, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where Dom was like, yo, New Day, you guys are like crooked, man. You guys are evil. And it's coming from Dom, who's like the most booed thing. He basically transferred all the heel heat that he's got in the last 2 years. Like, here you go. You guys can have this too. Even that guy thinks the New Day are shady. Even the New Day's mom, Kofi's mom, was like, nah, bro. I think they're doing a really good job. Wrestling fans, like, with the whole current wave of it being popular, we're very able to pick up on, oh, we're supposed to, this is our cue to boo here. Because sometimes, you know, like, all the fans like to be like, oh, this guy's turned heel, now I'm going to cheer him. We have to, you got to remember, your job is to boo
cheer
these
baby
guys.
Faces and boo heels.
Yeah, that's I'm sorry, that's what it is. So I love the fact that the New Day are just getting booed out of the building repeatedly and going after Rey Mysterio, him fighting this mystery partner. I hope it's Penta. I think that is the thing. I mean, they showed his mask on. Yeah,
I can't see it being anyone else at this point. They want to stack this show. But just think, I think that a lot of the dream matches we've had of tag teams have been, you know, New Day versus the Bucks, New Day versus Lucha Brothers, Usos versus the Bucks, Usos versus the Lucha Brothers. And we're kind of close to getting that, and seeing Penta and Rey team against New Day. I think it's a great way of introducing Penta to people that aren't aware of who the Lucha Brothers are. And it's maybe a better idea than, you know, bringing both in at the same time. And
both Rays? He just swapped out Rey for Rey. This is the Lucha Brothers, by the way. It's Rey Mysterio.
And we can get there. Like, we can get to that match. But by that point, Penta will already be well established with the WWE audience. And it might be a little easier rather than, the Machine Guns debuting and having half the crowd being, sorry, who are these guys? Oh, we're meant to know who these are. I think having team with Rey is a great idea because everyone loves Rey Mysterio.
It's so true. Like he's past like the oh, he's a wrestler. Like I feel like most people know who he is. Like I've told you, like when you go to Mexico in different cities and you get those random street vendors selling lucha masks, they're always just Rey Mysterio masks. Like that's just what someone's visual. When you think of a luchador, it's the greatest mask of all time. So having him help bring in Penta is a fantastic way. I do hope this leads to Penta then, either turning. Maybe I don't know if that's too soon. That's just fantasy booking, but there's a lot you can do. There's so many dream matchups and stories that you could do with Penta. In whether it involves Rey Mysterio and the LWO, not sure. Like, of course, it's an easy tie-in to help with Rey Mysterio, but also Penta should face Io Sky and Kairi Sane one more time. Just bring that. That will never happen. But like in my fantasy booking brain, like, hey, they're both in the company. Let's go back to that one day. But I'm really excited to see Penta in WWE. I think there's
speaking of Io, I thought she had a pretty good match with Lyra on Monday as well. So now we've got the final of Lyra and Dakota Kai for the women's IC title. I'd be happy with either of them winning, to be honest. For me, I think I'd rather go with Dakota. I think she's just got a bit more character, a bit more established with the main roster, and I feel, Lyra's had the NXT title run. She's been in the final of Queen of the Ring and stuff like that. I'd really like to see Dakota win this thing, and it could potentially start a bit of a feud with her and Io and help elevate Dakota to be more on that level. Yeah,
like Lyra, I think, is still trying to find the character. Like her wrestling has always been really good, especially we've watched her in NXT, but she's still trying to find like maybe who the character is. Whereas Dakota kind of has been that almost upset with injuries and bad timing and just like a whole lot of list of things. So it would be like a nice crowning moment, kind of like how they did Chelsea Green, right? They're like, hey, Chelsea, we know we fired you. We brought you back. You've been injured, this and that. Hey, why don't we throw you a bone here and give you this title? And I feel like that's might be the case with Dakota Kai. I'm not saying it's a pity title or anything like that. I'm just like, hey, Dakota, you have a lot of fans and we haven't really used you that well. So maybe this is the opportunity to do that. So I do kind of hope it is Dakota who wins.
I feel as well with, SmackDown going to 3 hours. Jake from the Windy City said he listened to Paul Levesque's interview on Sports Illustrated Media podcast this weekend. And talking about Raw on Netflix, he said his sweet spot would be like a 2.5 hour runtime. So you're going to have more match times. You're going to have more matches. We've got so many women in NXT ready to come up. So I think they do I know, it's an easy fix, just have more and more titles. But with the expanding shows and such a great women's division coming up, I think you do need these other titles to fight for. And both Dakota or Lyra would be a good candidate.
Yeah. Did you just say we need more titles in wrestling? Yeah, I agree, Davie. More titles for everyone. Everyone should have a title in wrestling right now, because that's what it seems like whenever I watch these other shows, because it just everyone comes out and has a title. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess everyone's a champion in wrestling these days. But yeah, no, I do think that's the proper move. Have Dakota win. I'm trying to think of what else is programmed for Raw on
I
Netflix.
think we could maybe go to Raw. To SmackDown, where we had the final segments for the tribal combat between Roman and Solo. There was a pretty good segment between Heyman and Solo, where Solo said he'll acknowledge Roman if he loses the match, but if he does win, Heyman will be his forever. And then pretty fun 6-man at the end of the night with I thought the entrance for Sammy and the Usos through the crowd was pretty cool, and Jacob Fatu just steals it for me every time.
Yeah, what was the deal with Heyman? People I saw online were posting how he did the thing with his fingers, almost like Penta, really, but the 3, and it's similar to how The Rock was doing it the last time he showed up. So people were assuming maybe there's a tie in there, but I don't necessarily think Heyman and The Rock need each other, considering they're the two best talkers in the company. So, I mean, that would be a crazy tag team of just shit talking, right? Like Sino in the chat says it's 3-minute warning. Yes, also related to the bloodline. Yes.
Yep. I mean, Heyman is like, come on, he's a heel. He's always a heel.
Yeah.
He's got he'll
just
be turning on Roman eventually.
Yeah, like imagine the final boss version of The Rock with Paul Heyman. That's just ridiculous. That's like, oh boy, strap in for some insane promos. But that's pretty cool. I think we do see The Rock on Monday with all this stuff. Whether it's finally he, turns on Roman. He hasn't fully turned on Roman, right?
Nope.
Like there has been he showed up at Bad Blood and said, "Hey, I'm here," and then that was it. So we'll see if he shows up on Raw. Like, is he strapped in for WrestleMania season? Or is Moana doing reshoots, right? Like,
I mean, I think the company's so big at the moment, and obviously as fans, we want everything to peak for Mania. But if Rock can't do Mania, but he's about for a SummerSlam, you'll have him for a SummerSlam. They want to make all these shows as big as possible, especially with Netflix, especially with this new audience. I think you're going to see so many of these other pay-per-views completely beefed up. SummerSlam's going for 2 nights and all that as well. So I don't think Rock showing up on Raw is necessarily confirmation one way or the other for Mania. We had Tiffany Stratton, our girl, our NXT 2.0 success story. It's Tiffy time, finally cashing in. Quite like how they did it with sort of the fake cash-in as a distraction for the ref for Nia to win, but eventually turning on her. I thought the crowd reaction was great.
They were so loud for her.
So loud. And I loved her just feeding off the crowd. Like, come on, let's fucking go. Like,
I mean, we said it when we were watching her in NXT from right out the gate. We're like, okay, wait a second. This girl is pretty and she has the prettiest moonsault. Like she wrestles like one of the best we've ever seen. And she's young still. And I don't know if it counts, but I think it was last year on our Likely Unlikely. We were like, hey, she should be winning in her first year of the main roster. Now I know the clock and the calendar changed over to 2025, but within still a year being on the main roster, she has now become champion. Like it is easily like, look at that crowd reaction.
Yeah.
They were just waiting for it. She came across as one of the biggest stars on that show in this company. So good for her. She's totally deserved it. Like since day one in NXT, she has been like shooting in the gym and stepping up completely. Like even that moonsault, like I said, it is the prettiest moonsault. Beautiful. No one has that moonsault. It's so good. So really, really happy for her. I hope this won't be her only she's going to have many, many title reigns, but like we got to go to the Nia match, I assume, which definitely not
the Rumble.
Yeah. We got to get past that. Like you have to do that match, but
now I think Mania, I think you've got to give her one of the big returns, either Becky, who we know she has great matches with. We saw them in NXT. They were some of our favorite matches of NXT that year. Or Charlotte, where I think just obviously the visual of the two
blonde
buff Barbies with moonsaults. One slightly better than the other, but both have a nice
slightly.
One lands them at least.
Yeah,
but I think both stories are very easy to tell. Becky, she beat Tiffany for the NXT women's title. So you've got that unfinished business. You can bring that into it. Charlotte coming in, trying to prove that she is still the queen of WWE and not ready to have this maybe imposter, this lookalike taking her spot. I think you could go either way. Does one have your interest over the other?
You know what? Both sound great. We have seen Becky and Tiff, and we know that their matches were really good. So I wouldn't mind seeing that down the line. I mean, Becky is up in the air. She's still a big star. And as much as I know she's doing Star Trek or she's doing some sort of acting stuff, which is great for her. Like that would be awesome to see her in a lot of stuff. I always like when wrestlers go on to other things because like, hey, wrestling is great, but like, if you have passion and you want to get, more famous household name, et cetera, like for me, I don't know what this not Quentin Jackson. That's something else. Whatever this lightning show that Edge is in, like the dude got nominated
Percy Jackson,
whatever. I don't know what I just said, but he's like Emmy nominated now. A wrestler is Emmy nominated. Like that's crazy. So as much as I want to see Becky back, like, hey, if she wants to do acting and stuff, like she seems like the person who would fit in different roles and stuff. So I do want to see her back, but I think a big WrestleMania matchup would be Charlotte versus Tiff. Like at WrestleMania, two buff Barbies, like you said, face to face. The crowd would side with Tiffany, I would assume. Like at this point, she seems like one of the big stars. So turning her
they'll make the mistake of having Charlotte try to come back as a baby face, and everybody like, no, we don't want to cheer you.
She can get booed regardless. It's just how it is, and she needs to realize that. So, like Tiffany should also beat Charlotte, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, I'm really happy for Tiffany, proving like I think she will be one of the biggest WWE NXT success stories because she's already won the title and within a year on being on main roster TV. So good for her. It was a great moment, and I know we're going to get some good wrestling out of it because on top of, again, like the looks and the character, like the wrestling is so good from her, like leagues above like half their roster. So yeah, that was a good moment, and I'm pretty thrilled when someone from NXT gets their big moment.
We have the ladder match set up for the Royal Rumble, Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes. I've been really enjoying this feud. I still don't see Kevin at this point winning this title, but I think they've done a good job with the TV every week and Kevin Owens' character. But I guess the interesting thing from SmackDown this week was Drew McIntyre's involvement as well, and kind of teasing Drew v. Cody down the line.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe do that for Elimination Chamber here in Toronto. I don't think Cody versus Drew is the Mania match. You know, no. Drew was really good in that Punk promo, Punk feud, but after that, it's like, where do we go with him? Where does he slot in? Do we put another title on him or anything? I'm not opposed to that because I think he's become like super popular, more popular than maybe ever. I just think they don't necessarily know what to do with him. So have him in the Rumble for sure as one of your last people, or win it. I don't know, but I wouldn't see that. But the Cody Owens thing is like, I was saying leading up to Saturday night's main event, like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Kevin won the title, even if it was in a sleazy way, only for him to lose it back to Cody? Instead, they just have Kevin being the, like, you know, crazy heel, like, oh, I have this title now. I am this champion. I am the Eagle champion, the old school title. So my understanding is they're putting both titles up there for this ladder match. So Cody has to pull both down to win this thing. I'm kind of over ladder matches, but it's Kevin Owens Kevin Steen has had some crazy ladder wars. And I know we just brought back the package pile driver after like 10 years. It's a fantasy hope spot, but
on the ladder,
he does it on the ladder just like he used to do. That would be gnarly. So I'm looking forward to this match. These two like have good chemistry, and I think it'll be good.
I agree about the ladder match. I find singles ladder matches a little different. I'm kind of done with the multi-man ladder matches where people were just setting things up to jump off of. But I think these two will work. They're both pretty smart wrestlers, and I think they'll have a good one. Yeah,
the last time Cody had a ladder was that with Sammy in AEW, and like that was a pretty good ladder match too. And again, like Steen has history with ladder wars and stuff. So at the same time, I kind of feel like if anyone's gonna have a ladder match, it wasn't the match I think we all thought it was the type of match, the stip, but I think it'll add to that pay-per-view a whole lot. I'm kind of excited for that one for sure.
And one more thing on SmackDown, I think, was what did you think of the blue mat?
I liked it. It looked really, really old school, like old school NWA, almost like New Japan style. Like, I don't know. It just looked different. It stood out. It made, when I was watching the Tiffany stuff, I was like, oh, like, look, it looks, I don't know, just different and newer. It's always nice to see. I mean, it hasn't been slapped with the Prime and all those ad logos, which I'm sure will come back. I'm not sure, but like, the New Japan ring is blue mat with sponsors. Shout out Lawson. So like, I do assume we get those coming back because I did notice they weren't on that SmackDown blue mat. But
yeah, I really liked it as well. It gives it, for me, just a bit more of a sports feel. Like it feels like a sort of, whenever I see the blue, it feels the same with New Japan. It almost looks like an Olympic mat, like amateur wrestling mat, that kind of thing. Just adds the like sports feel to it. Just continuous production changes I really like. Like I like how they showed the results through it during the show, the headlines. Although I say about giving it more of a sports feel, one of the headlines on SmackDown was just ridiculous. It was like, in tribal combat, if Solo Sikoa wins, he owns Paul Heyman forever. And I'm just thinking of someone watching in a bar where it's like on in silent, and you read that headline, you'd be like, what the fuck?
He owns him.
So shall we do some predictions for Monday Night Raw on Netflix?
Yeah. Okay. So like what matches are actually announced? It's Seth and Cody.
So No, it's Seth and Roman.
Seth and Seth and Punk.
Yeah,
sorry, Seth and Punk.
Seth and Punk. Yeah,
yeah.
We're fried. A lot of wrestling. Yeah. I think I'm really looking forward to this one. I think both will have a lot that they want to prove here. Both always have chips on their shoulder, but it's got to be Punk for his Mania story.
Like part of me wants Seth to win, but it just doesn't make sense for that right now. So you could go back to this match at WrestleMania this year, next year. Seth will get his win back, but right now I don't think it's the right move. But he'll definitely out wrestle Punk, I think, in some of those spots. Like he seems healthy, hopefully. That I'm interested to see what they do for sure. I hope that the Raw on Netflix doesn't just cut to commercial when the match starts, though. I'm really hoping that's not a thing.
Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns.
Now, Davie, correct me if I'm wrong. You are 0-2 of Tribal Combat. Anytime this match happens, you fall asleep. So,
what was it? No, I mean, okay, Jay versus Roman. What was the other one?
It was Jimmy versus Roman. No, there was more Tribal Combat.
There was. Yeah, I think just Jay versus Roman, and yeah, which still 100% fail record. But.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna take a nap when this one shows up. No, I think this one will be a little bit better because of the stakes and everything.
Yeah, we can have shenanigans with this. I'm gonna go with Solo for this, and I think it's Solo via Paul Heyman and
The Rock.
So they made a thing on Raw, like on SmackDown. They had that great video kind of showing the whole story, and they were saying about how, you can't just take the Ulafala, you need to be anointed. And they show, Alpha and Seeker anointing Roman at Hell in a Cell. So I think Solo wins via nefarious means. And if you smell, The Rock comes out and he hands the Ulafala to The Rock.
Yeah, I feel like The Rock somehow maybe costs Roman this match to solidify, like, I'm not with you, actually. I'm with these new guys have been me the whole time. Yeah, essentially. So
are we both saying Solo?
Yeah, I think Solo via Paul or Solo via Rock or just Solo via Solo.
And John Cena in the chat saying supposedly there won't be ads on Netflix. So
I don't buy that at all.
I feel at least for this first one, I think we're going to get, or I think you can be a bit more. I don't think you'll be as restricted as when you throw commercials in.
Yeah.
So I do see us having more ad-free matches.
I hope it's ad-free matches, but to say there won't be a single ad on Monday Night Raw on Netflix, like, you're kidding yourself. You're going to get those Monopoly ads that WWE seem to be in bed with, or any of the betting ads. Like, you're going to see something of an ad, whether it be the fucking ring canvas. There's going to be some sort of ad on Monday Night Raw on Netflix.
We have the Women's World Championship in a last woman standing match. Liv Morgan defending against Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, I kind of want this story to be over with. I know that it seems like a lot of people were into it and popular, but from start to finish, I could care less about this whole thing. Liv, to me, hasn't really improved in ring. However, she's improved like 200% when it came to character and promos and stuff. Like, there's a reason people were invested in this story. I wasn't one of them, but I understand why, it is popular. But I wouldn't mind Rhea finally taking this back and then moving on to maybe something a bit bigger, like having maybe a more worthy opponent. I feel like the Liv stuff was maybe a step back in a way, obviously injuries and everything, but I'm kind of finally time to, like, let's move on from this. Or my other thing that I've been saying for like 2 years now is have her go after something else. Have her like down on her luck. Have her go after the IC title. Have her just step away from this feud completely is what I want this to do, regardless of the outcome. I just think Rhea as champ is a stronger suit. She's one of the biggest stars on this show. So like, why wouldn't you have her back as champion going into WrestleMania, all the way through WrestleMania?
Yeah, I disagree about Liv. I think she's improved tremendously in ring over the last year or so, but she's still not on that star level of a Rhea Ripley. It is, you know, Netflix era. We're in Mania season, and a story has to end eventually with the babyface winning, right? And this story has gone on like for all of 2024. It feels like so. Rhea's got to win this one. I think as well, it's the only title match on this show. Yeah. A big title change on the first show makes a lot of sense. And yeah, then we can start to play about with who Rhea's Mania opponent is.
Who do you think it is? Becky, we just did that. Charlotte, we've done that.
I'd like to see Bianca and Rhea, but I think we're pretty far away from that with Bianca doing the tag thing and Jade Cargill's story. So but personally, yeah, I'd really like to see Bianca versus Rhea. They teased us with it a couple of years ago, and it never really came into fruition. So that would be my pick, but you'd have to do a lot of like switching things around with stories going on right now. Other than that, like we've seen the Becky match, we've seen the Charlotte match.
Bayley
is so cold for me right now.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just don't know who would be Rhea's.
I'd see maybe Io Dakota at Mania. Potentially, unless you call someone up, but really, like, who is? I can't see as great as Roxanne is. I think that's a big role to step into against Rhea. I think she'd be eaten alive in that. So
like Roxanne could lose her title to Julia this week and then show up in the Rumble. Win it might be a little too soon for that, but like she could be on the main roster for WrestleMania season. There is that chance, but I don't know. Yeah.
And then we have Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso. Drew is still on his, tirade of just destroying anyone associated with the bloodline.
Yeah, he's kind of like Frankie Kazarian, the elite killer. Just like, it's a bad gimmick. I don't like this storyline. Move away from this. I feel like he should just beef with someone again. Just like have a reason to and move away. Because I feel like everyone's beefing with the bloodline. The whole reason Kevin Owens is a bad guy is because he was beefing with the bloodline. And people started teaming, and they were good guys. It's like
I feel it's a way to transition into his next feud. Like I don't mind this as coming out of the Punk feud. He needs something, and he's still got these gripes.
He should win.
It's difficult because if you are having him v Cody down the line, you should have Drew win this. But also Jay is so popular right now, and Jay has lost, I think, every match against Drew. So I think there's an argument for both, and I can't really see where you go out of it. Both characters.
Yeah, I'd say Drew wins just because we need to keep him a little hot for whatever is coming out.
Bit of rehab after his loss as well.
Okay, what about John Cena? The tour starts. The retirement tour starts here on January 6th. What does he do? Does he just come out and say, hey, I'm going to retire?
I think it's just a promo and announces himself for the Royal Rumble.
You think he's in the Royal Rumble?
I think he's in the Rumble match, yeah.
You don't think he's got like a mat? You don't. No. I think he should be in the Rumble because
I think when I felt when he said in the Scotiabank Arena, when he said it'll be my last Royal Rumble, my last Elimination Chamber, my last WrestleMania, etc. I took that as I will be in the Rumble, I will be in a chamber match. Like I feel he'll do all those things.
I agree.
So I think it's simple. He comes out, everyone cheers, and he just announces for the Rumble.
You could have a feud that leads to them fighting in the Rumble, like someone throwing him out, etc. But then he either wins this and faces Cody at WrestleMania, or he wins the Chamber and faces Cody at WrestleMania. I'm wondering if one of those scenarios is real. But yes, the farewell tour kicks off on Monday night.
I assume when they eventually bring Randy back, it would be to take out Owens, but it would be kind of cool to have Cena come out, announce the Rumble, and Randy comes out to interrupt him just to have a tease of those two, whether we ever do the match or not, just to have them two together in the ring one more time. You know,
like it wasn't good back then. It won't be good now.
Oh,
so, like,
absolutely.
I don't want to see that.
But I'm not saying the match, but you can have them both in the Rumble match and do something there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
we've got Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods taking on Rey Mysterio and a mystery partner. I think we both agree that it will be Penta. I think it will be a little disappointing at this point if it's not.
Yeah.
And I think Rey and Penta have to win if that's the case.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Zero fear, zero miedo. This is also in California where, like, that's his territory. Both Rey Mysterio and Penta's territories. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Penta's got his own lucha store down the street. So, like, he should get a big reaction. And if people aren't familiar with him, I think they will get familiar very, very quickly. He's someone that is easily, like, the visual of the guy. He's got catchphrases. He's got a sick mask. The real question, Davie, is are we getting the debut of Penta or are we getting the debut in WWE of Joker Penta? That's what I'm really waiting for, okay? He needs to come out with the Joker stuff, like, the next week. Or just show up. He's going to show up in the classic black, I imagine. But Joker Penta. You
got to hold off for St. Patrick's Day Joker Penta in March.
And then he'll wear it for a year straight.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. What name is he going by? This guy's had like 10 different names.
Yeah, I saw people online saying it was Penta El Zero Miedo.
Okay. That's like...
It's fucking Penta. It doesn't matter. Like, same with, like, you know, I think since the Walter thing, I've changed my take. Like, it doesn't even matter what you call people at the end of the day. Walter, Gunther, it's like, if it's the guy, it's the fucking guy, you know? Like, yeah.
Cino with a curveball here. What if Rey's partner is Big E?
I mean, they never really said he's not wrestling. The stuff with the angle with him does make me think that he will come back to wrestling. I think that's like a little, I don't know. It would be cool. It would be really cool, but I don't know. Is he ready? Like, if he was ready, you think they would have worked in a different, like, why is Rey Mysterio dragged into this? Like,
I think the New Day have desperately needed freshening up for years now at this point. And I think it was the most effective way to get them to turn a heel. I didn't necessarily take it as an indication that he's wrestling again as much as I'd love to see him wrestle again. But that one of those two, I'll say. Anything else you expect from that's the card pretty much there. That's everything announced, I believe. Anything else you expect?
Yeah, like I said, I think a few returns, or like we said, debut even with Penta. I think they're gonna go like legends heavy. There might be like we said, Charlotte, Becky, one of those two, whether you show some other Raw people. Hey, maybe Hulk Hogan will show up, maybe Stone Cold will show up, probably not. But I just think they'll treat it like the big show that they have been, advertising for a long, long time. And I hope the numbers do well and everything. It just shows like WWE is, sorry to steal it from Triple H, but like they're on fire right now. So like, I think this is going to be one of the most watched Raws in quite a long time, hopefully. So I'm excited for it. The fact that I'm like, hey, are you free Monday? I want to watch this live. So we might as well watch it with a bunch of friends. Like we usually have Dynamite watch parties sometimes when it's a big one, or pay-per-view parties. But we've been doing this show for like 5-6 years. Not once have we said to our friends, hey, come over for Raw. This is the first time in like 6 years that I don't think we've ever fully like, we've watched Raw because we've been roommates, but like, when have we ever been like, oh shit, we got to go, Raw's on, we better make it to watch this. Like, this is a big deal. Like I feel like a lot of wrestling fans are going to be tuning in Monday night at 8:00 on Netflix.
Yeah. So many people are talking to me about it, and people that don't regularly watch wrestling as well. So
exactly.
Going to be pretty cool. Shall we pivot on to, I don't have a whole lot to say about AEW this week, but there were a few things to talk about before we get into
we could quickly talk. I feel like we didn't talk about World's End, which was about a week or so ago. Was that already a week?
Yeah.
A year ago. It feels like it, for real. But yeah, World's End from December 28th, just a week or so ago from Orlando. I thought was a pretty good pay-per-view. I mean, Will Ospreay once again showing that he is just leagues above everyone else who goes in between those ropes, because not only did he start the show with one of the best matches to end the year against Kyle Fletcher, he then also wrestled Okada like, a few hours later in another show-stealing match. I can't even decide which match I liked better, because I honestly thought that Fletcher match was so good that it was kind of the Nathan Frazier thing where they had Will coming out all bandaged up, like
Yeah.
he's been in a bar fight, drinking all night, and he's like, "Oh fuck, I gotta fight Okada." It was so good, and you had Okada beat him, but he was already wrestling and he was injured and all that. So there is a reason to we ever want to go back to that match in AEW. But I thought World's End was like a bit of a sleeper hit, because I'd say going into it is probably one of my least hyped shows. And as much as I am saying I thought it was a really solid show, I thought it had one of the worst, if not the worst, main events from an AEW pay-per-view with that 4-way. But at the end of the day, I was still like happy I watched the show, because I still got some good stuff out of it. I thought Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander put on one of the best women's matches of the year. Statlander just killing it. And I know Mercedes has been getting so much heat, but like the second half, or maybe the third of the year, like something clicked in her, like, oh shit, people are talking shit about me, I better step it up. And then just started having good matches again. Something happened where she's like, oh, maybe I actually do need to wrestle to get over. Maybe I need to switch something, because I feel like a fire has been lit under her just in the last few months of 2024. So the Statlander match and Mercedes really stuck out. I'm trying to think of stuff. What else?
Overall, I thought it was a pretty average and forgettable pay-per-view. Like the two Ospreay matches were fantastic. However, you didn't
like Mercedes Statlander?
No, I loved it too. But what I was just going to say is we saw both of those matches like 3 weeks ago. You know, they're great. The rematches were great. Like I love both matches, but there's something about having something a little fresh as well that I appreciate, and doesn't necessarily make it the most memorable show of the year. But don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed Mercedes Statlander and Ospreay Kyle Fletcher. And Ospreay Okada were great. They'd totally be my 3 top matches of the night.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this show over like 2 days, because I was working when it was on, and because of that, I felt like Konosuke Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs went on forever. It was only 15 minutes, but I started it. It was fine. It was fine.
That sounds like a miserable viewing experience, to watch something over a few days. You're gonna hate it, because you're like, it's like homework. It's like work. Like I got to get through this.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I started it after work, and I started to fall asleep during Takeshita Hobbs. So I woke up and rewound it a bit and started to fall asleep again. So I was like, right, I got to go to bed now. And then the next day it was starting Powerhouse Hobbs Takeshita. So
that's like me and Shogun. I keep trying to watch that show and I keep falling asleep. I'm like, everyone says it's good. It won all these Emmys. I'm like, I just keep falling asleep when I watch it.
So I just felt like that match went on forever. But that
match was good.
That's possibly my own doing as well.
That match was really good, actually. Like, I think that was a big moment for Hobbs, because Hobbs is like seen as like this big muscly dude, and that's it. But I think this was the first time I'm like, oh man, like, you really click. I mean, if you have a bad match with Takeshita, you need to check yourself. Yes, I'm talking to you, Ricochet. I really thought it was a good pay-per-view, except that main event was really awful. Like that 4-way was just a mess.
I didn't think it was awful.
I just like the story going into it. You had no interest going into it.
Okay.
There was some moments where they're hitting all the moves and finishers and stuff, and I just think that the main event scene is so cold. And I'm a Moxley. I love Moxley, but not this version. This has got to be the worst iteration of this. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't draw any heat. Doesn't make anyone interested. I talking to any wrestling fan. I'm not talking wrestling podcasts like us. I'm just anyone who watches week to week. Like, no one has said, "Oh, this has been good." Yeah, like no one, not a soul. So
I thought the match was wrestled fine. I thought it was a decently enjoyable match, but not what I want as your main event for the world title. They did a good job at Full Gear of having me bite on some Orange Cassidy near falls. But if Orange Cassidy wasn't going to win at Full Gear, there's no way any of these 3 challengers are winning in a 4-way. There's no way Moxie is winning in a 4-way. So I'm going into this match. You know the result before you watch it.
Yeah.
And I really don't like this Moxie run. It's like, oh, I'm just so angry all the time. Fuck off. Okay, be angry. Quit. Leave your job. Like I don't enjoy the character at all. You then just got Claudio, Pac, and Yuta just looking like mean mugging behind him with Marina. Like I I hate it. And
yeah,
there was no way I was buying anyone but Moxley winning this match, and which suffers. And I don't think there was any point in this match, which the orange match did achieve, where you like bite, oh, maybe something could happen here. So
that's exactly it. Like I don't even have any feeling or connection to the match. Again, I watched it. It had some cool stuff, Jay White and Hangman and Orange, but you had Yuta, you had Claudio, you had Marina. It felt like just some WWE, old school bullshit where it's like, I didn't believe any of this. I'm not even interested in any of this. Like, out of all the stuff, it was probably my least favorite match on that pay-per-view. And that was your main event. So, like, yeah, it definitely dragged it down.
I don't know. You're talking about a show that involved MJF versus Adam Cole. So
fair. Yeah, I think that was a low point too. Yeah. I those two have had some really great matches in the past, but this feud, hopefully it's over. It doesn't even fucking sound like it is. I'm so over that as well.
I think it's over now.
You think it's over, but
well,
it's like,
Cole's with his friends again, and MJF cut that promo wanting the world title. So
you know what? That was a plus. I don't know. Was that this week's Dynamite?
Yeah.
While on the subject of AEW, I was watching Dynamite and I was like, okay, World's End was good. When was Ospreay and Darby? Did we talk about that? Because that had to be like TV match of the year. Yeah, like that was just a phenomenal match, and that was on TV for free. I can't think of anything that was on a TV show match that was better than that one. Like that was just fucking great. I've watched so many clips back from that one, especially that coffin drop to the apron, which was just crazy. But I loved this week of MJF promo. That's what we needed. That's what we need. All these, like, Swerve needs that. Swerve needs to come out right away and be like, yeah, I've been beaten by Lashley and those guys are fucking with me or whatever. And maybe he's busy with Ricochet, but former champs, Tony Khan just likes to take his toy and drop them once he's done with them, right? Everyone always makes his shiny new toy references and stuff. And it's so true. Like, MJF was champion for a year. He loses it and he's just fine with it. He's gone. Like, no, he should be like telling us how his plans to get it back. And I feel like every time someone loses the title, they don't ever do that. They don't ever like, hey, wait, don't forget about me. We usually forget about them very, very quickly. So I did like that MJF basically saying like, hey, I should be back in this title picture. It's like, oh yeah, actually you kind of should, because the title picture is drowning right now. So like, you have MJF, you have Swerve, you have Hangman, you have a bunch of key characters that could be drawing houses for main event title pictures, but instead we're doing whatever the fuck this Moxley thing is, and it's totally beaten me down, like not in the right way. It's completely like uninterested me, and I love Moxley, but this is not it.
I think I might have turned the corner on Ricochet.
Oh, I knew you had.
I'm giving it a few weeks, but I thought he had a great week this week.
Yeah, tell me how much you love Ricochet, Davey.
I think this finally a character he's like clicking with, like, playing up the hatred, the dorkiness, but finally getting back at Swerve. The stuff with the scissors I thought was great. That feels like a hot feud already, Like, hot feuds don't always have to be about the title. Swerve had that with Hangman. He's capable of having these programs with people. And I thought Ricochet had a great week. We'll get to the Dynasty match in a few, but I'm starting to come around. If it can continue on this trajectory, I think it could work. I think this AEW Ricochet could really, really work.
Yeah, no, I loved when the Hurt guys, what is it? The Hurt people.
Hurt
Syndicate were like really bitching him out. That's when I knew. I'm like, oh, I like this story actually. Cause he's like, it's like a movie where it's like the one guy's like, oh yeah, I'm cool with these guys. And they're like, you're not in our gang. You could have had your chance, but like, you're not with us. We're a little bit more scarier. We're the real thugs and you're just a wannabe. And I thought when Bobby grabbed his face, he was so bitched out that I was like, ooh, I like this direction. And then on top of that, you had Swerve like humiliate him at the pay-per-view, right? With the toilet paper. And I was like, ooh, okay, I like where this is going. And then Ricochet he's been called bald too many times. He pulled out scissors and said, you're going to be bald too. That's where I thought this was going. I thought he was going to cut off Swerve's hair, because I was like, he called you bald and everyone seems to call you that. Maybe he's had enough of that. I thought that angle was done beautifully. Dare I say, maybe the best thing he's ever done.
Yeah,
like
fantastic.
Outside of some of the matches from like 5-10 years ago, whatever, like that is probably one of the best things he's ever done. So I wasn't always like hating on him, but I was like, you came to AEW to. It was that Takeshita match that really pissed me off. It was like, how do you have a bad match with Takeshita? How?
Yeah.
He didn't ruin my night, but it's like, how did you do that? How did you manage to do that? So I was really worried about him after that, but I think he's turned a corner, and I do think they'll have some fun with this story with him and Swerve. And this so far, the scissors, I'm not quite sure why he's using them, but I'm all in on that.
We got a couple of questions from John Cena regarding AEW. Thoughts on Cope and the new theme song, I'm So Excited.
Yeah, it seems everyone hates Cope. They can't cope with the fact that this guy can't use the word edge because of WWE. So he's pivoted to Adam Copeland, and now he's just Cope. We've kind of jokingly called him Cope just to short form it since he's been here. So I don't see the issue with it, but I'm sure people are going to nitpick. But
again, it's a name. I've heard some people suggest that, you mentioned he's been nominated for an Emmy. Maybe it's to separate himself from his acting persona a little bit. And it's not a great name at all, but you get used to it. There's been so many. What is a Triple H? There's so many stupid names in wrestling that you learn to accept. So
I mean, what the fuck is Edge?
What is Edge? Yeah.
You can't be the Edge because U2's got that one covered.
What I do find funny, though, is he has said before in interviews where he kind of regretted picking the name Edge because it's really hard to chant. Edge. Whereas you want a ba 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 or whatever.
Right.
Like, so he just picks another one syllable
Cope.
word. Cope. And thoughts on I'm So Excited. I was in a fucking awful state on January 1st. One of the worst hangovers of my life from a great New Year's Eve we had. And dragged my corpse to the couch to attempt to watch Dynamite. And it starts off with I'm so excited.
You're like, am I still drunk?
I thought I was still on a different planet. I didn't know what was going on.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Pointer Sisters is that song is not a bad song. It's a fine song. However, it's so good that it's a gay anthem, and maybe no one ever told Tony Khan that.
Tony Khan,
you feel excited?
I feel Tony Khan and Donald Trump maybe have the same kind of music.
He couldn't use YMCA, so
I guess that'll be for Shockwave, won't it?
No, he'll use It's Raining Men.
We've got Elton John for Collision.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for Dynamite, but sure, whatever. I kind of just missed the original Dynamite theme. Like, it wasn't great, but I didn't feel we needed to really change that one.
Did you see the version I posted on our Instagram?
Was it Cher?
It was Cher, another gay icon. I'm not hating on the Pointer Sisters. I'm not hating on Elton John. Just why? Why is that the song that you thought, this one is going to look... It doesn't even fit the video of the song. It looks like someone's trolling them.
That's the thing. I thought we put on like a random YouTube, like funny video Dynamite. People always make those fake themes, don't they? It was... I wasn't
watching. I wasn't watching live, and Sino had messaged in one of our chats, like, I can't believe this is the new theme song. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, they changed their theme song. I'm like, to what? And he said, I'm So Excited by the Pointer Sisters. And I was like, this motherfucker is lying to me so much that I was like, with someone, I was like, hold on. I gotta I loaded up Fight. I went to the intro, and then I just head in my hand started uncontrollably laughing. Yeah. Whereas a few people around me were like, what's wrong? I'm like, you wouldn't get it. I don't even want to discuss this right now. Just close it down. I'm like, what in the fuck? What kind of a choice is that? That is so bizarre. They should change it. I'm sorry. I know you just changed it. Get rid of it again. There's so many other songs. You know how many songs there are, David? You know how many songs there are in this world? And they landed on that one.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How was that the one you picked?
Put in the comments, what would you like the Dynamite theme?
Anything else?
And John Cena also asking, and will Jeff Jarrett be world champion?
No. He could be NWA world champion again if he really set his mind to it. I know he's held that like 15 times or something, but I like the fact that he's cutting promos. He's basically saying, hey, just like John Cena and Tanahashi, I'm also going to retire this year, is what I got from that promo. But he says he's going to win the world championship. And even the crowd were like, yeah, you're not going to do that.
I think that promo last year before the Owen Cup, really turned people's heads. Like this stage in Jeff Jarrett's career. And, I would take a Jeff Jarrett, John Moxley bloodbath of a match over another 4-way.
Right.
I think that it's a great story. I've always liked those kind of, Cactus Jack versus Triple H at Royal Rumble 2000. That kind of story is great. The person, the vet, like on his way out, trying one last time for the title with a super heel you're really trying to put over. No, Jarrett's not going to be world champion, but I'd be down for it. Not whether it's not a pay-per-view, but a big like themed Wednesday night show. I think it could be pretty good.
Do a show in Nashville and have him
absolutely
go for the title or something like that. I don't think he'll be world champion. I wouldn't mind him winning another title, like the content.
He should win the Owen, really.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, like people have been up and down with Jeff Jarrett over the years. It seems like he's finally been in the good books, the good graces of wrestling fans. And then he says he wants to be world champion. And then all of a sudden we're like, whoa, wait a second. We know about you being world champion. You ran your own company. We know you've been champ for way too many times. You don't need to do it again. But his heart is in the right place, I guess.
And well, any other thoughts on AEW before we move on?
Yeah. I thought having Cope come back is pretty good. The fact that they did the Fight for the Fallen in North Carolina, where FTR and Cope are, from and represent, and the whole stuff with what's been going on over there. I thought that was kind of a nice moment and a cool thing that maybe fans may overlook, because like some of the people in North Carolina with the weather and all that stuff have been having a tough time. And it seems like FTR and Cope were really like standing by for their community and everything. And I think that's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, but getting like the internet access and the Stormlink or whatever, all that kind of stuff, like they've been real supportive. So I thought it was a cool moment for that. And I like the team of them together. Like they're friends in real life. Fucking why not? Rated FTR, I'm sure will sell a lot of t-shirts. They got some cool designs and cool gear. So I'm for it. I'm also for the same thing how I said about MJF, just basically saying like, I'm here to win titles again. And Edge is basically like, hey, I've been here for a year. I think it's about time I win something. I'm not here for myself. I'm not here for you anymore. I'm here for myself. So eventually we do get a Cope heel turn, which I'm sure will be great too. But we need Cope and Christian teaming up before this, reign ends.
I reckon is Revolution the next show?
Yeah.
So Edge versus Moxley, Revolution?
It makes the most sense. Would you have Cope just beat him? I would at this point. I'm so over that feud. But Cope beats him and Christian cashes in right away.
There you go.
Book it, TK, book it, and then fucking put a pay-per-view in Toronto, you cowards. Yeah. Holy shit. It's been since Forbidden Door 2003. Let's go. Yeah. We need a new pay-per-view here. And you put those two on the thing? Yeah, I think we'll be doing all right. Yeah.
Poor Grand Slam Australia. Oh, is that next?
Oh, what's that? I don't know what that is, because they haven't talked about that in a long time. Our friend Dickie says that it's probably just going to be a house show at this point.
Yeah.
Isn't that month?
I see that them advertising for All in Texas is like that advertising's everywhere. That's fucking half the year away.
Do they have Costco in Australia? Bring the Costco guys down. They'll fill the house. Let's go.
Bring AEW stars, the Costco guys, Shaquille O'Neal and Snoop Dogg, right? All over. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that was a weird, part of me loved seeing the Costco guys. I had to double take to see them while listening to I'm So Excited by the Pointer Sisters. But why was Snoop and Shaq? They haven't been on AEW in 2 years.
Yeah, they haven't been on for 2 years. Meanwhile, Ricky Starks is still employed.
Yeah.
Well, shall we move on to the Tokyo Dome?
Yes. Hi, we shall move on. Wrestle Kingdom 19 took place just this past weekend. Shout out to those who were in different time zones and decided to stay up or wake up to watch this live. All the power to you. It it didn't have any hype for me going into it, other than the fact of my favorite, Kenny Omega, returning to in-ring action. That definitely was a draw. But then as I logged into New Japan World to watch night one, that is when I realized, oh wait, that's on tomorrow's show. Why am I watching this one? But I ended up enjoying the shows for the most part. I'd say thumbs up, but maybe one thumb up. I thought there was some good wrestling. I still think they're missing a whole lot in New Japan. I voted New Japan as my least favorite, worst promotion in 2024, and I stand by it because I used to be a real big supporter. I used to give them my hard-earned money. I used to go to their shows and travel to their shows and watch all of their shows. But I'd say in 2024, it was a bad year for them. It felt like everything that could go wrong for them kind of went wrong. They lost all their stars, and I mean lost, like all their big guys took contracts and left. And I know that because I watched the English commentary, and Chris Charlton was not shy to say a lot of that stuff on the commentary. If you were to hear some of the things he said, he's also not wrong. But New Japan took a big dive this year, and they're not going to. They didn't just catch fire again from this one show. It's still going to be a long battle to get back to, I don't know, the glory days or whatever. But I don't think they're going to get there anytime soon. However, I was slightly surprised in some of the stuff I watched going into this show. I was not a fan of David Finlay, but he shows up with a giant gun, kind of looking like Channing Tatum. He kind of looks like Channing Tatum a little bit with the hair.
The gun, right?
Yeah. The gun. Yeah, no, not China. I thought he managed to like come across cool, which is unimaginable to me before watching that. I thought that was like a step up. And then he actually had a pretty good match with, was it Yota Tsuji, which I thought was like, hey, you know what? That was pretty good. And I didn't have any interest in even watching that match going into it. So that's always a plus.
I thought Finlay had a really strong weekend.
Yeah,
he
did.
I really enjoyed his match with Brody King as well. I'd say like he's definitely leveled up. Like I feel on an aesthetic point of view, he needs to cover up some of those awful tattoos. It makes him look budget and indie.
Generic.
And everything else is kind of like leveled up a bit. And I think he can still evolve. But I thought he had a really good weekend. I thought the match with Yota Tsuji was one of, if not the best match on night one. For me, it was between that and Takeshita and Shingo. And I thought him and Brody had a pretty enjoyable match night two.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like my excitement wasn't super high into this. I feel like watching, we're Westerners, we're in North America, and watching Japanese wrestling, not all the time. So when I do check it out and it's at the Tokyo Dome and the whole big entrances and everything, it makes it feel special. It makes it feel like, okay, like it's cool, it's different, and not everyone's cup of tea. Not every wrestling fan even knows what New Japan is, right? But going into it, I didn't have that high expectations, and I came out of both nights like, hey, there was some stuff in there that I really, really liked. I could quickly go through some stuff. The opening ladder match, I actually thought was a bit of a mess to start things off. Ladder matches just need to take a break. Like the whole match was everyone climbing and then not grabbing the thing and then jumping.
There was one bit in particular where he was, I can't remember who was
Kevin Knight.
Yeah, I think it was Kevin Knight was like right by it.
Yeah.
Everyone was down and was like, you could jump and grab those.
And then he jumped and didn't even hit the guy. He missed, he missed the spot. I was like, I thought Robbie Eagles was the standout, and then his team ended up winning with the Ichiban Sweet Boys, which is a great tag team name. I thought Robbie Eagles was the standout in that match, and then he ended up winning. So I thought it was a bit of a mess and didn't necessarily set me off in the right direction for it. I was like, okay, that's where we're going. And it wasn't the best match to kick things off, but it seemed to have the crowd interest.
I think it's the best place to put just a clusterfuck multi-man ladder match. It does, even when they're bad, it's just a bit of a car crash to watch to kind of get you going. You see a lot of entrances right away, that kind of thing. Yeah. Like a lot of manias have started off with the like IC ladder match or the Money in the Bank ladder match. I get it. But yeah, it wasn't anything special, and it was quite messy at points.
I thought something that was great was the women's match between Mayu Iwatani and how do you say her name? Azumi. Yeah, this went 8 minutes 45 seconds, which I'm sure a lot of people will agree. Like, oh, they didn't get enough time. I agree. But in those 8 minutes, 40 something seconds, they were like going balls to the wall with some of these things. Like, we know both of them are really good, especially Iwatani, who I felt like we've watched for so long, and she's still so young, which is crazy. But like, this was another sleeper hit. I was like, man, they know like this is important. We're not just getting 5 minutes here. We're getting almost 9. So, hey, let's go out. And I thought there was some crazy stuff in the 8 minutes. Like Mayu again showing the whole icon thing of Japanese women's wrestling is true. Like, she is really, really good. And again, still so young. So really, really thought that was a bit of a surprise. I wish it went longer, but it was good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I get the feeling with women's matches in the Tokyo Dome on January 4th, it feels like what would happen if you put an NXT match on a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're going to go out there and try to absolutely kill it. But no matter what you do, like, 90% of that crowd won't have a fucking clue who they are and not give the reactions that deserved, and maybe win them round by the end. But that's kind of what I got from this match. I definitely felt that the crowd volume was not reflective of what I was seeing these girls doing, where if this was maybe in a Korakuen Hall on a Stardom show, they'd be eating it all up.
Yeah, I did watch with English commentary, and a few times I did switch over, and I would say maybe the audio was louder for the crowd on the Japanese thing, because I did think that too. I was like, I'm pretty sure she like hit this crazy. Her finish is like the dragon suplex thing, like with the like edge to it kind of thing, and I thought that was nuts, and I thought it was kind of quiet, so I quickly changed the New Japan app. By the way, those motherfuckers, if you want me to continue watching your shit, don't do this. Don't upload the matches individually, right? When it's later on. And then when I click the match, start the video at the end when they're celebrating.
Okay,
Are you
so
fucking kidding me?
I think it's because we're both watching on the same account. I disagree with your first point. I really like the matches being separated.
No, I like that.
You watch a New Japan show, there's like so much in between each match.
Well, wait, that's not fair. That's not true, because you weren't watching it because you were asleep when I was watching night one. I watched up to a certain match. You definitely weren't watching. You were dead asleep for sure. And I then came home and I was like, oh, I have a few other matches to watch. So I loaded it back up to where I was. And as soon as I click it, it just goes to the end. What the fuck?
They need the option where you click on a match and it says start from the beginning.
Yes,
because there were a few which I assumed it was you who was watching, because it started like halfway through the match or something like that. So don't mind them individual, but yeah, they need that start from the beginning thing.
The next match was the 4-way for the Cookie Tin title, the King of Pro Wrestling.
No, this is the TV title.
TV title, the roller tray title. And El Phantasmo comes back from not only beating prostate cancer, but now beating 3 other wrestlers in the Tokyo Dome and wins it. And you got to love it. The one nut wonder here, El Phantasmo, as they say. Yeah,
great moment for El Phantasmo. Fucking like crazy year he's had. And you know, one of our own from Vancouver, right?
He's someone that slowly is becoming one of the like fan favorites over there. Like, I could see him in NXT one day, to be honest. They better treat him right. I mean, giving him this title, I guess, is like, hey, here you get this. But like, I'd say he's more over than some of the guys they really push. Over. And like, considering he's a fantastic wrestler, he's creeping up there as one of the best to watch in New Japan for a little bit of a while now. So I loved it, from his look to his story to everything. Like, I can't say I can't remember anything from this match. Yeah, it wasn't the best match, but he was the highlight. Yeah, that was a good thing for ELP, but pretty forgettable match, I thought. Speaking of a forgettable match, Tanahashi versus Evil in a lumberjack death match, where if Tanahashi loses, he has to retire. Yeah, I can't stand Evil. I can't stand House of Torture. I thought with this, we might at least get just some stupid shenanigans. I thought it was all pretty basic. You know, I thought you could have just done the ultimate clusterfuck of a match here, and bells, whistles everywhere. It was a clusterfuck, all right. But it wasn't a clever clusterfuck. You know,
I get a sick enjoyment out of Triple H versus Sting from 31.
Right.
This wasn't that, and went way too long. In 15 minutes, this was just
Okay, so
not enjoyable at all for me.
So you're saying what they should have done is had Shibata's music hit before the match ended, just like Sting and Triple H. We're like, oh shit, wait, someone's coming out. Instead, he comes out afterwards like, hey guys, it's like, Shibata, maybe you should have came out to help him during the match instead. But it was silly. It was ridiculous. Fucking poor Master Wato at the same time. Fuck Master Wato. I thought that was good. Also, Chris Charlton, I think referencing that, is it Yo, who was out in the crowd selling merch?
Right.
He used to wrestle on Wrestle Kingdom, just letting everyone know that. Also, Dick Togo, the pipe cut might be the most devastating move in all of wrestling, where they all the guys hold you upside down on your head, and then he runs and he jumps off the top and chops you in the dick.
To the dick. Yeah,
it's pretty great. That was the highlight. Other than that, it was crazy that Shibata came out afterwards. Tanahashi didn't retire from in-ring action yet. And then Shibata's like, hey, what if we have a match tomorrow? And people were like, what the fuck? Like the crowd just erupt. And it's like, if you knew that was what was going to happen, wouldn't you promote that?
Well, then we saw what it was going to be.
It was two guys slapping each other for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't anything.
Yeah. Then we went to my match of the night, at least for night one, which was Takeshita versus Shingo. All the meat, all the big beefy men hitting each other here. They went out, they were killing each other. It kept cutting to Big Tom, Tomohiro Ishii, sitting there at commentary, doing his best commentary of just not saying anything, looking menacing. I thought that was pretty hilarious. These two went out killing each other, but I think there was like a part of me that there was like a little bit more in there that we could have got. But I've been feeling that way about Shingo for the past year or so. So Shingo hasn't had a like ultimate banger like we used to. So I still really enjoyed it. Still was my match of the night. But at the end of it, I was like, I think there was a few more minutes in there.
Yeah, I feel both Shingo and Ishii I find very similar in my enjoyment levels, where they used to be the two I would watch New Japan for. Like I really enjoyed their matches. And I feel both of them haven't shaken it up enough and are relying on things that were maybe popular 5 years ago. So this is when it started to feel more like Wrestle Kingdom for me.
Yeah.
But I feel there is a better match between Takeshita and Shingo, but maybe that better match would have been 5 years ago. You know, so there was a gear missing. Like it didn't go overly long. Like it went shorter than the Tana Evil match, unfortunately. Enjoyable, a good solid match, but I was maybe a little bit underwhelmed.
Yeah, I wasn't like disappointed because again, it was two guys just killing each other, but they only went like 12 minutes something. And I'm like, you could have went a little bit. There could have been a third gear that really stepped up. I love to see Takeshita win the never open weight title. Afterwards, he had referenced that he has signed a deal with New Japan. He will be representing DDT and AEW in New Japan. So I imagine we see a lot more of him in there, which I think is great. I've always said that if it wasn't for AEW swooping him up, I think Takeshita probably would have been main eventing a Tokyo Dome by this point if he were to have been on that path instead of coming to America. But I'm glad that he did go to the States because he's been one of my favorite to watch. But I'm thinking that New Japan maybe treats him like a bigger deal, and to see him with the DDT, Titantron, and everything, like I'm happy for this guy, and hopefully they treat him well in New Japan. Because if I was booking, I'd probably have him drop the neverweight title and then move on to something a bit more serious. I think. But yeah, that was still my match of the night for night one. Other than the next match, which kind of happened, unfortunate for, how do you say this name? Because I always say Dookie.
It's Dookie, yeah.
That's pretty much what this match was, a Dookie. I'm sorry, Dookie. But El Desperado versus Dookie, and it went for like 5 minutes or something before Dookie had hit this crazy over-the-top spot and hurt his arm or something. It was very, very scary. I was worried for him.
They called it pretty much right away. You see on it was like a somersault sent onto the floor.
Like,
and as he's landing, he puts his arm down and his elbow just bends. I was kind of into the match. I thought it only went, like, this happened pretty early into it.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So there was obviously more going to happen and different gears and stuff. But I was kind of into it up until that point, and really disappointed. And it's always telling when you can see, like, you could see in El Despi's face how like upset and pissed off he was. Like, you don't want to win a title this way, and yeah, and obviously it's the biggest stage possible, and certainly for Dookie, his biggest stage. So
I felt
really
for
unfortunate.
You felt for the guy for sure. You could tell he was probably really, really upset. The camera was on Despy the whole time because obviously the guy's hurt. But as long as he stood up and he was breathing and everything, he's going to be okay. But I was worried for a minute there.
Dislocated left elbow, apparently.
Yeah, it looked like it because he put his arm out right as he was falling. But yeah. Next, we went to the global. Don't call it the North American title. It's the global title, not the U.S. It's Yota Tsuji defeating David Finlay in like I kind of said off the top, a pretty surprising match here. I think, again, right off the gate, he had the hair different. He had the big fur coat and the big 3D printed gun coming out to the gangster sounding music. I thought his entrance was good. I thought they made an actual effort of making him seem like a big deal. And then he actually had a pretty good match with Yota Tsuji, who I think maybe some people were wondering why he wasn't the one chosen to be in the main event slot for the IWGP World Title, but a surprisingly pretty good match. I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think I think Tsuji should have been in the main event instead of Shota Umino, but I was pleased to see him win a title as well. Are things what's going on with Finlay? Is he sticking around?
I'm not sure. I mean, they had him wrestle the night after, and it seems like they were promoting like, hey, this guy's going to have to step up and go into the next level. I would imagine maybe he goes into the world title slot.
So as of January 3rd, Fightful reported that his contract's coming to an end.
What's with these New Japan January contracts?
Yeah,
you know your WrestleMania is in January. Change that.
Expected to re-sign. And honestly, I think New Japan is the best place for him right now. I don't know where he'd fit into either of the two major companies. Like TNA would be fine, but I feel that's a lateral move at this point. So I'd stick in New Japan, and especially like things are starting to kind of come together. But yeah, I enjoyed this match. Was pleased to see Tsuji win. I
like how Tsuji's gimmick is he's got nice teeth.
Very nice teeth.
That they just kept saying that. Oh, those pearly whites. I'm like, all right, cool. I still think there's something missing with him. I feel like that for a lot of these new guys that they're trying to push. Like they're not ready yet. And like the only way to be ready is you get thrown into the fire and see. But it was a good match. It just didn't hit that level that like
I felt very similar to this with the Takeshita Shingo match. They were both like thoroughly enjoyable, but I was missing a little extra juice.
But they did manage to make me at least think of Finlay in a different light. Like, hey, you're getting better. So that's a plus for sure. And I thought he looked cool with that gun. We go to Naito taking on Hiromu. Oh boy. The plus. Let's look at the plus before we get angry. Best entrance yet again.
Sure.
Year by year, this guy's got the best fit in wrestling. Like, I don't know. I was literally, as his music hits, the time bomb countdown's going down. And instantly my brain said, what's he going to come out as? What's he going to come out dressed as? Because every year he's got the greatest fit known to wrestling. And then he comes out with this insane thing. I thought my gummy was hitting a bit early here because he was just coming out dressed as, maybe I needed an LSD gummy for whatever he was dressed as here, but it was pretty funny. The reveal with his big smile as his face, great stuff. Then you had Naito with a cool mask, and then Naito taking forever to get undressed. And then the match happens. And you know what? There was some cool stuff in the match. There was some good back and forth. It was fine. I didn't think it was going to reach another level that I didn't even think that, but it was fine. It was an okay match. And then Naito wins. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
You need new stars, right? Hey, this fucking guy has been here for like 4 or 5+ years, just waiting, stealing the show, selling merch all the time, being one of the most popular characters you've got. But the commentary, no, he's not a heavyweight yet. He's not a fucking book him as one. Why'd you have Naito beat him here? You had a star right here.
This should have been a passing of a torch moment.
Are you kidding
me? I didn't think the match had much flow. Like they were doing the kick out, teases of big moves and stuff.
Destino,
I didn't really feel it any crescendo to any of those moments. I didn't think there was much flow between the two, but this would all be forgiven if Hiromu wins. He's outgrown the junior heavyweight division. He's over. He's LIJ, which the Japanese fans still seem to like fucking love. And we need people in that top mix. These new guys aren't working yet. And it just made all the sense in the world for him to win. Naito passes that torch and Hiromu goes on and in the next few months challenges Zack. And that's a big story. And he can fail on that attempt, but have a great G1, win the G1 even. It made no sense. It kind of felt like when Okada was leaving the company and he didn't put anyone over, you know, where you felt like he should anoint someone as he's leaving. Naito like can barely walk at this point, yet he's still got to win. It made me really angry.
It's so bizarre.
It just so much just didn't make sense to me.
It's like this guy could be your world champion. Like he's popular. He's, you know, like it's just so weird that was the case. And, you know, it's wrestling, to be a wrestling fan being upset by the other guy winning and all that. But it's like Naito's being held together with like tape. And you got this guy who comes out with that fly shit on, has a cool gimmick, has a character, all this stuff for years and loses. And then it's like, and then he bows to his thing. And then, but we're still friends and he's still my sensei and all that. I wasn't screaming, but I was like looking at my TV like, hey, kick him in the balls right now after the match. Turn heel at least. Join another team. I don't know, just something. And instead it was like, why? How did you do this? So it made the match even more like, I didn't even mind the match, but him losing was like, what was the even fucking point of this match then? Because Naito wasn't even good enough to be in your main event tonight, that they switched it months ago because they couldn't trust that his knees would hold together. And yet you have him beat Hiromu here. Just baffling decision. Oh, we need new stars. We don't have any new stars. No one's ready, bro. This guy with the teddy bear has been ready for 5 years and you fucked it up yet again. So I don't know. That was a real weird head scratcher to me. So maybe they just don't feel like they can trust it. Like, I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, it's baffling. Completely baffling.
So that kind of took me out of the show. I was having a good time. I kept going though, and we made it to the main event. Shota Umino taking on Zack Sabre Jr., the IWGP World Champion, putting it on the line. Shooter comes out. This was a better motorcycle entrance.
Yeah.
Then was it last year he came out on the bike? I can't remember when he came
I know
out on
so
the
many
bike.
people just walk their bikes to the ring these days. I hate it. But yeah, he was whipping around.
Yeah, and he I don't want to sound like I am against motorcycle safety and all that stuff, but like, you think the Undertaker comes out wearing a motorcycle helmet when he comes to the ring? No, fuck no. So when Shooter came out not wearing the helmet, I was like, yeah, all right, that's better. And again, don't take this the wrong way. If I rode a motorcycle, which I do not, because I think they're scary and I think anyone could injure themselves very badly in a blink of an eye. But when it's wrestling, you're driving like from the ramp down to the ring, you don't need to wear a helmet. So I'm happy he didn't, because he at least looked cooler. I think that was the problem last year, is he wore a helmet and everyone was like, who's this geek kind of thing. Yeah. Unfortunately, again, I'm sounding like an asshole, but it's true. So I thought his entrance was cool. Zack Sabre Jr. coming out. He's got new music. It like switched from the old music to like this newer music. It's
Young
fine.
Punks or something.
Yeah, I thought it was saying Young Bucks. So I was like, are the Young Bucks coming out? But it's Young Punks. I was like, oh, okay, cool. More Oasis rip-off music, kind of, right? That's what he was kind of going.
Punk.
The other
Punk.
No, but his other theme was like Oasis kind of thing, right? This match went like an hour, 2 hours long. What felt like it?
This upset me so much. Like, I'm so happy to see Zack Sabre Jr. defending the title in the main event of the Tokyo Dome. I think Zack is one of the best wrestlers in the world. I think he's fantastic. I think this is long overdue, him being a major champion in a major promotion. Like, finally, like, how long have we been watching this guy? And Shota, like, I thought he looked like his gear looked great. He looked sort of main event ready in appearance. And I was so wanting this to work and to finally maybe not crown him as champion, but finally have someone where you go, okay, you stepped up, you leveled up tonight. The future is bright with some of these kids. But the match was, I thought it was pretty awful. It went 43 minutes. It was so long, and it was back, and there was none of the real like just smooth, like beautiful grappling wizardry that Zach does. It was taking in turns for one of them to be on the floor as the other guy just walks around him and does a couple of digs, and then the other guy would be down. And I know it's the New Japan style, these epic main events, but often you have more action and then it leads to both guys being down and having their breather, and you're allowing the crowd to swell. The crowd never swelled in this, I didn't think. And just, it was so repetitive, and there was barely any sort of actual combat between the two. I just felt they were taking it time in turns to have a lie down. And as the match was going on, I was like, oh, Shota can absolutely not win this match. Zach has to win this. Zach has to go on a run with this thing now, because this isn't it. Like, you can't go with Shota at this point with this match. I found it so incredibly disappointing, and kind of actively bad.
I didn't think it was bad. I would disagree with you on that, but it definitely didn't need to go 43 minutes. I think Zack Sabre Jr. has had a career of being the mid-card guy that has like 10-minute, 15-minute, maybe 20-minute matches. And then we're like, oh man, look at this technical wizard go at it. Whereas this was double that time and some. I don't know if his style fits this. Like I'm a Zack Sabre Jr. fan for sure, but this was a big test. Like, hey, can he be the guy? Can he be the big main event? And they love to do those like Broadway Wrestle Kingdom long matches. And it was a bit of a slog. I didn't hate it. There were some moments in it that like I got into it, specifically when Red Shoes, obviously being the father of Shooter, which was the ref, which isn't there a little bit of a conflict of interest there? Mm-hmm. Your son's in the main event and you're the one who's a ref. Okay. Maybe you should have helped him win. There was a moment when he was like yelling at his son, like, yo, not this way. Don't do it this way. You're not this guy. I thought that was pretty good. There was some good stuff in it, but it did not need to go 43 minutes.
I feel we've been so used to the Okada main events where they feel everyone's got to have an Okada style main event, but Zach isn't Okada, and Zach can have. We're very likely, spoilers, going to be talking about a Zach match in our best match ever of 2024, and Zach is perfectly capable of having a fantastic main event Zach match.
Yeah.
And here they are trying to do Okada Naito. And neither of these guys are Okada or Naito.
Yeah. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't my favorite match of the night by a long shot. I don't think I want to ever rewatch it, but I didn't hate it. I just also, it was questioning like, okay, Zach was rushed to be champion. He won the G1 and then he won the title way before Wrestle Kingdom. And then Shooter was the one selected to go against him. And I'm like, is he ready? It's a big thing in New Japan. Is like, is anyone ready to step up? And the only way we know is if people step up. But I wouldn't write off Shooter from this. And I definitely don't write off Zach. I just think it wasn't the most exciting.
I think in hindsight, knowing Naito was able to do this show.
Yeah.
You just do Naito. Zach. Like, I think there's something about them wanting to have Zach as champion going to the UK for that show for Royal Quest.
But, so weird.
But
you said
in hindsight, just Zach Naito is the main event.
Like he could have beat Naito in 20 minutes and it
would have been great.
It would have been good.
Crowning of Zach, the new future moving forward. Everything else of the weekend would have been the same, but yeah.
So like I didn't hate that match, but it definitely was like, okay. I had thumbs up for this show. I liked a lot of the wrestling, and I went in going like, ooh, I'm probably not going to like a lot of this stuff. And I was surprised by some of it. And that was maybe what I was like, okay, not all hope is lost for New Japan. Maybe it won't be my least favorite promotion of 2025, but we'll see. But yeah,
I was definitely thumbs in the middle. I didn't hate the show, but nothing reached a level to particularly get me excited about the show either.
It's something about the cast of characters they have right now. And I know you got raided over the last 2-3 years. Like you lost everyone that you put stock into. Like everyone that you put behind is gone. It's like there's Tanahashi, who's if Naito is being held together by tape, Tanahashi is like being held up by marionette strings at this point, but he's still going. If we lost Okada. We lost so many of these people that it's tough to restart. It's like watching it's like watching a TV show like The Office when Michael Scott leaves. It's like, yeah, it's still The Office, but like, fuck, we kind of tuned in to watch him, So
we did, before we move on, we did miss another headline, and that's from the kickoff show, the New Japan Rambo, which I was so pleased they've done away with this King of Pro Wrestling thing. Yeah. Having a battle royal end with 4 people winning sucks. This is to determine a number 1 contender for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And really looking at the list of people that came out, we had Goto, Zayn, Great Okan, Tenzon, Josh Barnett, Kenta, Oleg Boltin, Sanada, who main evented the Tokyo Dome last year, Satoshi Kojima, Taichi, Togi Makabe, Tomoyoki Honma, Tomohiro Ishii, Toriano, Yoshihashi, Yuji Nagata, and Yujiro Takahashi. Looking at that, really, it was only kind of Sanada or Goto who could win this thing. And I've never been a big Goto fan. He's had good matches. He's very much always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Yeah. But
now's his time.
Part of me was like, yeah, fuck it. Why not? Let's have a Goto run. Give him his Rolex. At this point, Zack versus Goto will be a killer main event somewhere down the line. If Zack is still champion by that point. So I enjoyed this Rambo more than others in the past. I think they could have maybe had a few more just funny surprise entrants, but
the Rizzler. I was waiting for the Rizzler in the Rambo. Yeah.
But I was kind of happy to see Goto win this thing.
Me too. This is the match where they just wheel out all the old dudes and then they sprinkle in some other people like Sanada, like you said, who was the main event of last year. But I'm happy he wasn't on the card. I do not like Sanada. No. The problem is with these guys is they give them a weird nickname, and then that probably translate weirds from Japanese to English. And then their character has nothing to do with that, and they don't have a character. Sanada was the prime example of like, okay, what is his character? I don't know. His name is Sanada. He's good looking and he can kind of wrestle. That was it. There's a lot of guys like that. So I'm happy that Goto won. Do we give him the title though? Yeah. Why not? Why not? They never gave it to Ishii. So like, what the fuck? Yeah. You could probably do that before it's too late. But anyways, I'm happy it was Goto. Anyways, that was Wrestle Kingdom 19. Then the next day, for those watching in North America, Eastern time, you could have watched it at 11 p.m. on a Saturday because they booked the Tokyo Dome for 12 noon. Imagine that. I mean, the show ended pretty early Japanese time the night before, so you were still able to go home, go out, do all that stuff because the show didn't end till like 8 or 9 p.m., which is like fine. So you had a lot of time in between to rest up for this. But then 12 o'clock, they opened the Tokyo Dome up and they put on some more wrestling. I didn't realize that it was starting at that time. So by the time I came, I had a real Japanese day yesterday. Let me explain this. Me and our friend Graham and my girlfriend went to see the original Godzilla at the Hot Dock Cinema. I had some sushi. I had some ramen. And then I came home. It was like 12 o'clock, midnight. My girlfriend passes out and I go, oh, what am I going to watch? Oh, wait, Wrestle Dynasty is on right now. I didn't realize that it had started at 11. I thought it was another one of these 3 a.m. things. So I was like, all right, let's go. Full Japanese day where I tuned in. So I did miss the Lucha match and some of the opening matches as well. I missed the Sons of Texas.
I won't spend too much time on them, but I can quickly go through. We had the International Women's Cup Final 4-way match, which the winner gets to face any champion from New Japan, CMLL, ROH, or AEW. Momo Watanabe won, defeating by actually pinning Athena. It's the first time Athena's been pinned in a pretty fun opening match. I thought. What I kind of liked about this show, it's especially the CMLL talent who I'm not familiar with. Getting to see them, I thought Persephone looked pretty good. We had Willow Nightingale in there and Athena, but Momo Watanabe winning. I assume she's going to challenge Mercedes down the line, which the kind of run of great matches Mercedes has had recently, that definitely has my interest. But and you had was it Billy Starks, I think, attacking, whacking Athena with a bat that kind of caused her to lose here.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's super cool seeing people like Willow and Athena get to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome, because I saw their social media leading up to, like, they were treating it like a pretty big deal for them. As a few people on this card, like, a lot of these people are North Americans. They've never really wrestled in, let alone if they've wrestled in Japan, let alone wrestle in this venue. I think Tokyo Dome is one of the big wrestling ones. Like, it's Corcoran Hall, it's ECW Arena. Like, there's a few famous ones, MSG obviously, but like this one, it's kind of on people's bucket list. So to see people like Willow and Athena like marking out over this, I think that's pretty cool.
And sorry, it was Thekla who attacked Athena.
Right.
I don't watch ROH, so I don't know what any of these people
Does anyone really?
We had Sons of Texas defeating House of Torture. I have nothing to say about that match. There was a weird bit. Kanemaru does his whiskey spit in the face thing, and then Dustin did it back.
Yes.
And Charlton was talking about Dustin being able to hold his liquor. I'm pretty sure, isn't Dustin teetotal now?
I thought he was sober. So.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But he spit it out.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He did. But not much to say about that. Did you say you tuned in during the Lucha Gauntlet match?
I only realized, like, I had gotten home and realized it was on, and I was like, ooh, do I like try to tune? So I eventually tuned in, I think, as this match was like just over or ending.
This was really fun. Again, it's some characters I'm not necessarily familiar with, but it was a shorter version of the AEW Casino Gauntlet, where it's every minute someone else comes out, but it's one fall to a finish. You had Taiji Ishihiro, Kosei Fujita, Mascara Dorada, Master Watto, and Soberano Jr. and Titan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I thought this was just a really fun lucha match. Flippy.
Oh, I'm going to watch it.
Don't need to think too much about it, but I had fun with this one. For sure.
I was a little disappointed. I didn't realize again that it was on, so I just didn't have time today to go back and watch it. But then I saw pictures of one of the guys was dressed as Lucha Jesus. Right. So I'm going to have to go back and watch this. I don't know if it's this guy on the indies who's been dressing up like Jesus and doing all the mind tricks and stuff. But yeah, this looked interesting. But I was like, oh. So as I tuned in, it was like the entrances for Tanahashi and Shibata. So that's when I like started watching, if you can call it that a match. But
yeah, so they slap each other's chest for 5 minutes and it's a draw.
You know what? I've seen a lot of people criticizing this. The crowd loved it. The crowd were eating this up. So for 5 minutes, Tanahashi getting slapped in the chest. And then it ends with Shibata being like, hey, I'm not allowed to wrestle here, but I do wrestle for this other show. And if you are retiring soon, maybe we do this one more time. Now, my Japanese isn't that good, but that's pretty much what he said. Afterwards, Charlton was like, hey, I'm pretty sure Shibata is like telling him, we got to do this again, but like none of this 5 minute no hitting thing.
I think it's something where, this was going to work for this crowd because obviously we've seen Shibata wrestle in person multiple times now since the injury, but these Japanese fans haven't, so it's still a bit of a treat for them. But yeah, it was slapping each other's chest for 5 minutes.
Then we went to Mercedes Moné representing New Japan Strong, putting that title on the line against Mina Shirakawa, who's putting on the British women's title on the line. Okay, Davie, can you now agree that Mina Shirakawa's theme song is supposed to be Danza Kuduro, the Fast Five theme song? Oi, oi, oi. I say this to you all the time, and you're like, I don't understand. Okay, so not only was Shibata returning to Wrestle Kingdom one of the biggest deals, Chucky T live tweeting while drunk also returned last night.
Oh.
And one of his first tweets was, hey, if I knew I could have had the Fast Five theme for my theme song in Japan, I would have had it. And I was like, thank you. Because it's like basically an instrumental of that song.
Yeah. Well, my takeaway from the entrance as well is my New Year's resolution has to be learning this dance.
Yes, the Mina dance.
It's fantastic.
or the Mercedes Moné dance.
Oh, I've learned the Mercedes one. The Mercedes one is one move. It's very simple, but Mina's is a whole routine. I love it. We mentioned Mercedes had a great end of 2024 wrestling wise, and I think the streak continues. I thought this was a very enjoyable match between the two. I still not sold on the moneymaker, but I did like the transition into it for the finish of the match. Mina has star written all over her. But what's interesting now is Mercedes going to be defending this in the UK?
I think she has to, right? Like, considering she wins it, you're going to have her wrestle in what, Rev Pro? Is that where it's from?
Rev Pro,
right?
Yeah.
They just said British.
Which
so
it's the Rev Pro Undisputed British. But that's a huge get for Rev Pro. I hope it's not just she holds this thing until, Forbidden Door in London, where she drops it to someone. I would like to see her, Mercedes Moné in York Hall. That just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I hope she does too. Like, clearly she's doing the Kenny Omega belt collector gimmick and whatever. This match was fine. It was pretty fun. It was kind of what I expected. That moneymaker move, like, when it hits good, it looks cool, but it's like 1 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Like, she hit it twice here, and I don't think she hit it really. So it's kind of a head scratcher move, but she's growing on me. I think she's finally finding like her groove or something, since I think she's had a bumpy road since leaving WWE, and it's finally connecting with the wrestling. Like, I thought this was decent. And same with Mina. In fact, it was probably so good that Triple H and Shawn Michaels probably signed her already.
Yeah.
Isn't that the gimmick? You face Mercedes, you probably get signed by somewhere else. Yeah. So it was all right. We went from that to Brody King taking on David Finlay in a surprisingly pretty fun match. Like, Brody King was throwing this dude around, and then David Finlay was like, whoa, I'm not taking this. And then he started coming back with some big moves. So for 12
I
minutes,
was super impressed with Finlay's strength here. Some of those power bombs he hit on Brody King were very impressive. But yeah, Finlay needed the win after losing the night before. But I thought this was a really fun, brawling, just big man match.
I mean, shout out Brody. I know wrestling in the Tokyo Dome, for him, like, his name is Brody because of Brody. And then he even did the Stan Hansen taunt and you thing in the entrance and everything. So I know he was very excited, but a bit of a sleeper hit for me on this one. I was like, 12 minutes of these guys bashing each other in. Brody King in New Japan would fit in very, very well. There's some dream matches there for sure, but I hopefully we get to see him in a New Japan ring again. So was surprised by this. I think this weekend turned me into a little bit of a David Finlay fan. I'm not jumping the gun. I'm not like getting ahead of myself, but I used to like just not even rate him.
We'll check in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
You with Finlay, myself with Ricochet. We'll see where we're at with him.
We'll see. I'm not writing him off, and I'm not saying I'm buying his T-shirt, but he should cover up that back tattoo. You're right.
Yeah.
On that one. It's the Randy Orton video game tattoo is what he's got.
Lance Archer a little bit, yeah.
What kind of tattoo is that? It's tribal. Tribe of what? Tribal. Yeah, that's what it is. We then had Shooter taking on Claudio. They really tried to push this, that like Shota Umino wanted Moxley because of the whole storyline, and Moxley was big leaguing him, so he sent his goons after him. Claudio attacks him during the entrance here. He didn't attack him while he was on the bike, safety first. He attacked him while he was on the ramp walking down, which I thought was silly. It's like, you should have shoved him over the bike if he was right there. But this was fine too. It wasn't anything that was maybe one of my more memorable matches, but it was cool. People were into Claudio doing the swing, and then Shooter beats him. But yeah,
I was slightly bored going into this one. Like, Shota really disappointed me the night before. I'm not overly into Claudio and this Death Riders gimmick thing at the moment. I don't really care about this story either. It was technically fine, but not many thoughts on it.
Then we had the never open weight and the AEW International Champion, Konosuke Takeshita, coming out with both belts. Oh, he looked so good. Another one of Chucky T's tweets, which I think he may have deleted all of them. I just tried to pull them up. But one that definitely was my favorite was, hey, no one on this. I'm watching New Japan. Thanks, Rocky, for the login. But how come no one on this show is sexy? And then when this match started, he goes, never mind, Takeshita is here. Takeshita coming out with both titles, and Don Callis to take on Tomohiro Ishii. Kind of similar vibes to the night before. It's like they're doing the greatest hits. They're doing all this stuff in 12, 13 minutes. But we know in another time in another universe, maybe a few years ago, they would have gotten to another next gear. But I still really enjoyed this.
Okay, I slightly preferred this.
I think I did
to
too.
night one, and you know why? Because Tomohiro Ishii hit a top rope Frankensteiner, and I was just like, "Excuse me."
But he also did like not even like the normal one, like the one where you jump to get there. Like he springboarded to do it sideways, right? Oh,
and that was great. And I can't recall Ishii really hitting this.
Big double take. Like what?
So I felt they didn't just, we see Ishii in AEW, and it's the chop and forearm exchange back and forth, which I'm very tired of at this point. I thought we got a bit more out of this. I also loved the bit where Ishii goes for his Gamengiri, and Takeshita it was almost like the Samoa Joe walkaway.
Yeah,
he just stepped back.
He's like, nope.
And he ate shit. That was good. Like, again, I think there's a G1 2019 level match between these two in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe we're just not there with Ishii anymore, but very enjoyable still.
I also this was only 12 minutes. If you shaved off the shooter match, if you shaved off the Jack Perry match, you could have given some more time to this and maybe some other stuff.
When you say shaved off, you mean just cut the Jack Perry match?
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't watch that match.
Yeah.
So that's the other match. I was like, I'm going to go refill my drink and not, have my smoke for the match that follows that match. But yeah, my only gripe was I think I'm on the same page. I think I maybe like this match more than Takeshita Shingo, but it still left me wanting a bit more. But at the same time, Takeshita is my guy, and seeing him in a New Japan ring in the Tokyo Dome kicking ass was pretty sick. So again, he did say that he has signed some deals with New Japan. I'm hoping this means more stuff with that company, because I love watching this guy. He's one of my all-time favorites right now. Love him. Yeah.
We had as you mentioned, next it was Was it next?
Oh,
to the
yeah.
Tag match?
Next was the tag match. So the 3-way tag match, which was changed like a bunch of times leading into this. So it ended up being the Young Bucks taking on Great Okan and Jeff Cobb, and Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi. You know what? I think this was better than I thought it was going to be. There was some stuff in it that was pretty fun. It's like the Bucks were just being Bucks from like a few years ago. They kind of just acted as if all this other shit didn't exist and they're just wrestling. So I didn't mind it, actually. I thought some of the stuff with Naito, Hiromu, hell, Jeff Cobb, man, he's always impressive too. Like, he's so hit and miss, but I thought it was a fine match. A bit of a head scratcher with them winning, because now it's like, oh, do the Bucks show up in the California show? Do they do more New Japan dates? Kind of weird, but cool, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, just very odd having, they left, quote unquote, AEW. Yeah. They ran away. They were heels. The EVPs escaping, and this is their having both them and Kenny returning on this show was a little odd. Match was fine. I think we probably see better tag matches on Dynamite every week, to be honest. But it was fun enough. Seeing the Bucks in the Tokyo Dome was pretty cool, and having those titles once again.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see where they go next with the Bucks.
You know what? Like, Great Okan and Jeff Cobb, they can be hit or miss, but they're fine. But I think if you just promoted this months and months ago, like Naito and Takahashi versus the Bucks, again, maybe they were just worried about Naito and not being able to perform or whatever, but it would have been maybe a better match, or I don't know. But I didn't hate it by any means. You bring up the fact Kenny and the Bucks showing up in New Japan like nothing has happened since. Like, AEW isn't even a thing, really, unless you watch their after match comments and videos. I'm just poking the bear. I'm just being devil's advocate. Are they giving a little flip the bird to Tony? Like, hey, we can leave you if we want to. We could go somewhere else if we don't like what's going on right now, even though it is our company. We could leave you and show you that, other things. I'm just fantasy booking here. I'm like, hey, what if they ever decide to pull a Cody and go, fuck you, we're out, we're going to the Fed?
Yeah.
Because watching this, I'm like, these aren't the AEW characters. These are from years prior. They just pretended all that. They said EVP when they did the trigger, but still, yeah.
And I have nothing really to say about Jack Perry versus Yoda Tsuji.
I skipped it.
It was
Yeah,
a Jack
sorry.
Perry match. It didn't hold my attention much at all. Tsuji won.
Yeah, I actually didn't even watch this match. I realized what was coming out after, and I wanted to be ready for that. So I went and took a washroom break, got some water, had a little smoke, and then it was over. So I was like, oh, cool. I sound like the biggest Jack Perry hater, but at the same time, like something needs to change. He can't just keep getting away with booking him on a show just because he's Luke Perry's son. We need to have some sort of reason why, and he's got no momentum for him to be booked like this. He has no like drawing power right now. I want him to do well, but this isn't the way to do it. But Tsuji won, so that's cool.
And then we had the returning Kenny Omega taking on Gabe Kidd.
Yes, I was very excited about this. Kenny being my favorite, was worried. You know, everyone's like, hey, this guy's been through a lot. Not only did he beat vertigo, diverticulitis, injuries, and all sorts of different things, but having him return not in an AEW ring, it had my attention because I was like worried, right? Like, this is my favorite going into this. Could we see a train wreck? Could he be not in physical form? I didn't think that going in because the last time we saw him on Dynamite, he was jacked and he was hitting moves and hitting everything. So I had hope, and boy, my hope was strong, and the god of professional wrestling returned. New Japan Kenny Omega returned stronger than ever, looking like an absolute unit, by the way. This guy was shredded. Now we know what he's been doing all this time. He was shooting in the gym, working out, because he looked absolutely great. But Kenny Omega coming out with an entrance. It was like the Final Fantasy. He had tweeted before, like something about the guy who made the theme song. They all worked together to make this specific theme for him tonight. All that nerdy shit he loves. Go off, King, whatever. But then Gabe Kidd coming out with his War Dogs and the gear he had made. In not only a shout out to New Japan, but a shout out to who was the guy that retired this year? Alex Lachlan? Yeah. Kind of similar gear to him, but it had the New Japan Fighting Spirit thing on it, which got a big reaction from the crowd, which definitely set the tone here. If you watched night one of Wrestle Kingdom, right after the match, it cuts to Tanahashi, who was on commentary. He was just so disappointed with Zack Sabre Jr. and Shooter. But then you watch Tanahashi during this match when Kenny and Gabe Kidd are just delivering headshots. Tanahashi was smiling ear to ear when they were murdering each other with chairs. And then after the match, he's fucking bawling his eyes out. I thought that was an incredible moment in wrestling history. But my king is back. The ruler is back. Kenny Omega, my favorite to watch, just absolutely putting on a match of the weekend here with Gabe Kidd. He made Gabe Kidd a made man here in AEW. Like I was always a bit of a fan of him, but this is a big spot to be put in. Like, you're going up against someone who, you know, Tokyo Dome Kenny is a big deal. And the crowd seemed to be on Gabe Kidd's side. The crowd seemed to be booing Kenny Omega at one point. Like, hey, you left us, motherfucker. You left us. And here he is getting booed by the crowd. And the crowd were really behind Gabe Kidd here. I thought this match was great. There was a lot of brawling for the first parts of it, but when it finally got going, like, man, it was a bloody mess. There was the Gonzo bomb, there was chair shots, the big dive from Kenny onto everyone. I was thoroughly entertained, and I was so happy that Kenny came back and delivered. Looked great in doing so too. I love this, and it was totally worth my time watching it.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic, right down to the entrances for both guys. It was violent, it was bloody. We could see Kenny can still hit those things. He added a bit of the Bryan Danielson, you know, teasing us with very legit injuries, you know, the ice pack to his kidneys and all that. For selling diverticulitis, you know, in the match.
So,
but this was great. This was my match of the weekend. It was a shame this wasn't on in front of a fuller crowd, but the crowd that were there were making noise for it. this was great. This was fantastic.
Yeah, like Danielson came back from like what we thought he was retired for all those years, and then a staple in Bryan Danielson matches is I'm concussed or my neck, and you're as a fan you're like, dude, is he selling or is he actually hurt? Now Kenny has added this. Cody Rhodes taught Bryan Danielson how to lie, and Bryan Danielson taught Kenny Omega how to do it too, because now he's added this thing. He's going to do this all the time. Like, what even is diverticulitis? I'm not.
Well, he's had his intestines removed.
Yeah,
right?
it's like fuck. It's like, so he's getting punched and kicked and everything, and then like he's yelling at the guy, like he's barking at this dude, like, give me the ice pack, give me the ice, and he's like, oh fuck, and he's like angry, like he
kicks
turned
him away for being too late.
Yeah, like he turned heel in the match, right? He knew the crowd was like against him, but oh man, it was so good. It put me in such a good mood because he's one of my favorites, and I was worried as a fan, like, hey, is it done? Is he past it? Is he past his prime? Watching this, I'm like, absolutely fucking not. Right after Kenny cut a promo saying, I'm done sitting at home, 2025, I'm taking everything I lost, I'm getting it back. I'm like, oh man, Tony Khan, were you watching this show? Were you there? Stop booking Moxley as your champion. Stop putting Jay White in 4-ways, whatever the fuck you've been doing. Your guy is right here. The king is right here. Let's go. Like, what are we doing? If this is what you have and you don't book, like, I don't understand. This was so good. And Gabe Kidd is going to come out of this, like, hopefully the White Knight, right? Like, he's got to come out being booked so strong in New Japan after this, like going to war. Yeah, he didn't win, but he went toe to toe with Kenny Omega in the Tokyo Dome, which is just another level. But yeah, this is going to be a rewatchable match for me. I'm going to have to check this out again. Just so happy. It put me in such a good mood for going into this year, and worthy of watching at weird times of wrestling, because it's like, it just delivered so good. And it's good when all your wrestling friends and all the wrestling communities are all coming together like, holy shit, Kenny is back, man. And I was super thrilled. Not as thrilled as Tana, just crying, bawling his eyes out. 2 white guys in the Tokyo Dome stealing the show, and he's like, fucking bravo, that's how you do it. The spirit of Inoki lives in a mean British dude. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
But yeah, really loved it. Highlight of the weekend. And that was the show.
Wait, what?
Oh, wait, there was the main event too. Yeah, I forgot about that. Fucking Trevor.
Oh, interesting. I'm getting the sense you didn't like this.
I didn't not like it. I have the same views of this match than I did the main event before. Maybe, like when your favorite actor or your favorite band or artist, you've been following them, and then all of a sudden they get like popular, and then they start putting out albums. You're like, I kind of like your older stuff more. You've gone commercial. That's how I feel about Zack Sabre Jr. Because I didn't hate it, but I didn't necessarily love this main event with him and Ricochet.
Oh, I really like this one.
Whoa, okay.
I thought like, don't get me wrong, like, not on the level of the Kenny match, but I really like the style they went. This was so much better than Night 1 main event. I loved like Ricochet off the bat, just attacking. He's got this more heelish persona now. But hitting Zack like with all his high flying moves, just blasting with it. We had more moves in these first minute than we did in the whole 43 minutes of Night 1 main event. But then I loved sort of Zack using his submissions in as an explosive way as Ricochet was hitting him with the high flying. Like, it was different. It wasn't the you hit me, now I hit you. It was such a contrast of styles. And I loved how speedy Zack, and a bit more violent and less smooth than he is, in a good way, with his submissions. Those neck cranks. I thought the sequence of the suplexes, the vertical suplexes in the ring, and then on the apron, and then to the floor. I thought that was great. I love a good submission finish as well. I did feel I was waiting for another gear. Maybe I was waiting for that last final stretch. On the other hand, I think submission should come out of nowhere when you've caught someone, but I could have maybe done with 5 more minutes. But I really liked what they did with this match, and I thought their styles clashed together really nicely. And for me, it was one of Ricochet's best performances since leaving WWE. I think there's there's still something about just like Zach as the guy. I don't think it, and these are all kind of weird things to say, but I don't think orange is a really main event color. I don't think his music and his entrance doesn't feel very.
No, I agree with you.
Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's something
yeah.
like having Okada standing in the ring at the end, like in golds and royal reds and blues and streamers flying and purple lights and all that. It looks cool. Having this pasty, skinny bloke in orange with just some British punk song playing. It doesn't feel that like grandiose finish of an event. The wrestling's fantastic, like, and I did really enjoy the match, but there is something where, like, I love Zach, but I think, you know, if he is a main eventer, he's got to level up on certain things to be a main eventer, and the wrestling isn't one of them. It's just presentation.
That's fair. Like nothing seems different. Like they tried with the music night one with the change of it, right? When he's standing there and then it flips to the different music and everything. But
I'll put it this way, and I know we've had this conversation. I think it might have even been on the best and worst of show. But when people who are like getting back into wrestling, or they've noticed the advertisements on Netflix and things like that, they'll keep on going like, who's that blonde guy who looks like Homelander? And they don't know who Cody Rhodes is, but they know he's the guy. They're aware he's clearly the guy. You're not aware of Japanese wrestling, and you see Okada, you go, who is that guy? Because he looks like the star. I don't think you've got that with Zach.
Yeah, I love Zach. You know, I like Ricochet. Again, I didn't hate this match. Maybe I was cooked after the match that was prior to it, right? Like
what helps with me is I got home from work, and when I turned on New Japan World, Ricochet was making his entrance. So this was the first thing I saw.
Gotcha.
And like, it's
the
only match I watched last night. Right. And then I went back, and pretty much the Gabe Kidd, Kenny Omega match was my main event today. So obviously you're coming off of that Kenny match, you're going to be spent, and then you're getting this match. But maybe the order I watched it helped my enjoyment, but I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I think night two is way above night one. Obviously, you had the Kenny Gabe Kidd match. That was the show stealer, the weekend stealer. But it also had Takeshita and Tomohiro Ishii. It had, you know, Mercedes and Mina was pretty fun. It had some fun stuff in it. It felt just like maybe a better show. Again, I skipped the Jack Perry match completely, so maybe that could skew people. But my thumbs were up. Yeah.
You don't need to go back on that.
Yeah, I probably won't. I will go check out that Lucha match maybe, but and I'm definitely going to check out Kenny versus Gabe one more time. That's my like factor to watching. We're you know, lucky enough we go to so much wrestling that when we watch something live, we turn to each other or our friends that we're with and like, we got to go watch that back when we get home because it was so good. It's the same when you watch something that's like, hey, I don't even want to watch the rest of the show. I just kind of want to watch that match again. And that's how I felt with Kenny and Gabe Kidd. And I really hope they give the ball to him and see where we can go, because he's been really good at promoting this match and promoting like how he's like the mean mugging, mean British guy that's just been shit talking. But now, you know, you fought Kenny Omega in the Tokyo Dome and lived to talk about it. I think they're going to maybe treat him like a bigger star, and they definitely got one out of that. But overall, my thumbs up, more so in the middle for night one, but thumbs up for night two, definitely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed night two. Overall, I did enjoy this weekend of wrestling. Like I had fun watching it. I think taking a step back from New Japan and tuning in once a year to see what's going on maybe helped my enjoyment a little bit, rather than if I was following this product weekly and getting kind of bored. But night two definitely had my interest a lot more. But overall, I wasn't mad I watched these shows at all.
Yeah, and that's good. Like, you know what, this is supposed to be their big show of the year in the famous, you know, venue. The tickets weren't as, you know, sold as much as prior years. I think night one had like 20-something thousand, and this one only had like 17 or 18,000 or something like that. In the Tokyo Dome, like there's big gaps of missing people in seats and stuff like that, but you could still hear the crowd very loud for certain things, especially the Kenny match. Something I wanted to bring up before we wrap up is when I went to the Tokyo Dome, I was praising that you could bring in your own food and your own alcohol, which is a thing there, which was great. But then when I realized that beer and snacks were also very good and pretty cheap in the Tokyo Dome was great. This year, they promoted the Wrestle Kingdom menu. And Davie, as someone who does watch parties, which may or may not be up in the air, I have to read you the New Japan Wrestle Kingdom menu that they had this weekend.
Right.
Which include the Tanahashi hot dog.
Okay.
Which, first of all, wouldn't you do the Tanahashi hash browns? The Tanahashi browns or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. Fucking great.
It's just a hot dog named Tanahashi.
Just a hot Tanahashi, the Go Ace.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
All right.
We had
what
some
else
sort
you
of,
got here?
I don't know if the names because I'm seeing them in Japanese.
Do we have Tyler Breeze lasagna?
No, unfortunately not. I don't even know who this guy is. Is that Dookie?
Okay,
Dookie?
the Hiromu ramen. Hiramen.
Ramen. Okay, the ramen. Yeah.
What's that? Grado Khan.
Grado Khan, like pork something.
And the
War Dogs.
Togi Makabe trifle, is that?
The Makabe trifle? Yeah, I don't know what that one is.
All right.
Yeah.
New Japan, if you're hiring.
Please hire us. Next year, we'll fucking...
The Tenzon burger. I think that looks like a crispy... That looks like a fried steak sandwich.
Can confirm the food in the Tokyo Dome was fucking lit. Like okay. I hate like arena food in North America. It's like hot dogs and tenders and fries. That's it. But here they had like everything. And then the War Dogs lemon sours. Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. I thought that was a great little addition there. But yeah, that's our Wrestle Kingdom review, everybody. We hope you enjoyed. Everyone out there listening, appreciate you. Here, but yeah, the War hot dogs. John Cena says.
There we go.
The War dogs, but you
right
made the
there.
Tanahashi hot dog.
It's
like,
right there. Okay, we do have to get out of here, but final thought, Braden. Sean Sapp has reported that New Japan has shown interest in bringing in Tom Peastock, the former Baron Corbin. You're looking for that main eventer. There you go.
Put him in the War Dogs. Yeah,
sure.
You know what? I don't like. He's definitely one of my least favorite wrestlers, maybe of all time. I can't think of anyone worse that has go away heat. However, like, bro needs to eat. How is he going to afford all those steaks? He needs to work, and they have pretty good steak over in Japan. So maybe we turn that Baron Corbin into Wagyu beef over there.
I'm down. Let's
maybe
go.
like Cino's trying to poke the bear here. Like I'm a positive person. I don't want to hate this guy. I want him to do well. So maybe Baron Corbin in New Japan is what he needed to actually learn how to wrestle. Send him to the dojo, be great. End of days for New Japan coming soon.
Well, that's the end of days just today for this edition of Poisonrana, but we will be back with a fresh stream in just a few minutes. We're just going to take a little quick break here to get our thoughts together, have a drink, have a pee, all the likes. But please join us because we are giving out for free part 1 of Best Match Ever 2024, looking at the matches that you voted, placed 10th to 6th.
Yes, appreciate everyone who joined in for this stream or this podcast. If you do like what you hear, please check out our patreon.com/Poisonrana. Check out chop-tees.com/Poisonrana. You can buy yourself a crew neck, a hoodie, a snapback, all the merch is there, and it goes to us. It supports your small-time favorite independent podcasters. And check out all the other shows that we got. Of course, follow us on all of the socials and everything, but we will be back with Best Match Ever Part 1 in just a few minutes, and we would love for you to hang around in the chat and give us your thoughts on that. But as always, appreciate everyone out there, all our frogs, all our tadpoles, all our poison pals. We can't do this without you, so appreciate you. And it was a good PRL.
Good shout. I think we made up for missed time there, didn't we?
We did. Thank you, everybody, and we'll be back very, very soon. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe for now. Bang.
Ahoy!